Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the City of Satellite Beach. This is a City Council meeting, September 5th, 2012. It's actually a budget meeting and a regular meeting. I'd ask that you, after we do the pledge, take your cell phones and please put them on off or vibrate. The time is approximately 6 p.m. Please join me for the moment of silence. In the pledge, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, I'd like to thank everyone for coming this evening. If you have seen the agenda online, it is a little different tonight. After this, agenda item number 3 is the budget. Number 4 is we're going to talk city codes. Number 5 is the comprehensive plan. 6 is abandoning a portion. Then 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 will be council comments, city attorney comments, citizen recognition, and citizens' comments. So I'm sorry, but since it is September 5th, the first public hearing budget meeting, we've been looking for this. We are going to do agenda item number 3A, public hearing on proposed budget. Ms. Samuelson, good evening.
Good evening. I'm glad that you all could come. The proposed budget to council for fiscal year 12-13 utilizes the rollback rate minus 0.5% while keeping levels at the staffing levels at a level sufficient for city departments to carry out their duties and responsibilities. The proposed aggregate tax rate is 8.3559 minus 5, and that's the rollback minus 0.5% for every $1,000 of taxable property value. Now, the property assessments for the city of Satellite Beach have increased approximately 1.5% for the fiscal year. And fiscal year runs from October 1st, 2012 through September 30th, 2013. Slide 1, please, Brenda. Now, this slide gets up close and personal because what it's dealing with would be the individual parcels, whether they be a home, a homestead, or other residential property that you might own, or even commercial property. And this is basically a comparison. For example, as you can see to the far left, you have a $100,000 assessed value. With the current rate of 8.5285, that would be $852.85 that you would be paying in taxes. With the proposed rollback rate minus 0.5%, that would bring your total to $835.59, which shows a net change of $17.26. And then you can look at the $200,000 and you see $1705.70 versus the $1671.18 for a difference or a delta of $34.52. So that is an example of what you individually might be paying. And of course you can do the different iterations of $150,000 and so on, but you do get the general idea of how the amount of taxes that you will pay will be changed. Next slide, please. City staff has demonstrated their dedication to decrease their budgets as they took into account recommendations from the Citizens Advisory Panel for Efficient Government, or CAPEG, while they were attempting to maintain the level of services and outcomes. The adjusted department budgets total $7,637,761. Now, when you look at this, you can see what we're talking about is budget adjustments here, and these are expenditures per the 8 departments in the city. The first is legislative, and that is also the council. And as you can see, the adjusted budget for that department decreased $345. Administrative and finance The adjusted amount was $38,905, and that again is a decrease. General Government Services, there was a decrease of $166,769. For Police, $105,229. Fire, $122,762. Building and Zoning actually increased $7,998, and that was because of the addition of $15,000 for a planning contract or planning consultant as needed. Doesn't mean that all that money would be spent, but it is available for that type of assistance. In Public Works, there was a decrease of $107,290, and Recreation, a reduction of $52,510. The total departmental reductions were $584,012. Overall, 7.1% decrease. That is the change. Slide 3, please. This shows the budget summary for all funds, and as you can see, this includes the general fund and 5 special funds, or special revenue funds. You've got the Community Services Special Revenue Fund, and that includes several small funds. The Stormwater Utility Fund, and that is the revenue to renovate the stormwater system and also to mitigate flooding. The Law Enforcement Trust, that's the money and property that's awarded by the courts. The Community Redevelopment Fund, and that's the CRA. And the Capital Assets Fund, and that's the revenue from utility taxes to fund capital assets of $3,000 or more with a life expectancy of over 1 year. Now, the community redevelopment budget is included in this budget, and the reason for that is to meet the TRIM requirements. That is a requirement. Now, the actual specifics of that budget will be discussed at the CRA board meeting, which will be held September 13th at 6 o'clock. And the specifics of that budget as to how those funds are utilized can be changed at that time, whether it's to the sinking fund or projects and so on and so forth. At that time, the specificity can be changed as to the allocations there. Now, this total budget summary for all funds totals $11,337,059, and that is approximately a 10.8% reduction from last year. But I must say that a decrease of over about a $1.5 million was within the Stormwater Utility Fund, and that's the major share of the decrease in that all the funds. Slide 4, please. This is if you remember what we just saw with the general fund and the 5 special funds, now we're specifically looking at the general fund, specifically looking at the revenues in that fund. You can see the taxes, the property taxes there. Those are the ad valorem taxes that we've been talking about with the millage rate and what would be generated from that. And we have right under that, and we're at the far left there, taxes hyphen other. That would be local option gas tax, communication service tax, and occupational licenses. Those are the lion's share of that category. Next, you have franchise and permit fees. That would include state revenue sharing, the state 1/2 cent sales tax, the pilot program, that's about $95,000, the first responder funds, and federal grants. Now, moving over to, and then we also have, that was intergovernmental. The franchise and permit fees are building permits Florida Power and Light franchise fee, city gas, and waste management, and intergovernmental would be the state revenue sharing, sales tax, pilot, first responder, and federal grants. And that's all on the left side there. Moving over to the right side, charges for services, primarily the big chunk there is the program activity fees from the Recreation Department. Under that is fines and forfeitures from court, and under that miscellaneous, which is the investment interest, and then other revenue sources includes stormwater utility transfer. And that is your budget summary for the revenues specifically. Now, you can also find the details on pages 9 through 12 in the actual budget for greater description of the line items there. The next slide is the general fund expenditures. And again, we have touched on these because we've talked about the legislative portion, administration, finance, general government services, police, fire, building and zoning, public works, recreation, the inter and intra governmental transfers. For example, CRA, there's a TIF transfer plus the $35,000, $35,383 to be exact, that is being paid from the city to the CRA. Those are those types of transfers. And finally, additions to reserves. And as you look at addition to reserves, that is $143,081, and that's that's over $2,000% increase from last year's addition to reserves. Now, the next chart actually is your numerical representation of the pie chart that we looked at for the general fund budget summary, specifically the revenue portion. And again, those are all listed, and the total revenue for each column as well. The final chart is the general fund budget summary, again numerically presented. We looked at the pie chart, and this is the expenditure portion. And again, I draw your attention, I guess I'm proud of the addition to reserves there of $143,081. Currently, we have about $600,000 in spendable, to which this would be added. So we're looking then at a total of about $743,000. And remember, that amount, the $143K, is basically the net of all the adjustments that we made at the August 28th meeting. So we were able to increase that even more than we thought. So Brenda had to look at the numbers and work those through to come to that conclusion. But I think that the council was very adamant about adding as much as we could to the reserves. And I think that is the overview. And remember, all of the, the physical budget, and I believe, Lenore, when is that going to be online? The budget, when will that actually be online for everyone to?
As far as the adopted?
The physical budget, this proposed budget? Okay. So that will be up tonight, so you'll be able to look at the entire proposed budget. And turn it over for any questions, comments?
Great, thank you. And before I come back to the council, I will say you that agenda item 3 is broken up into the public hearing, and then an ordinance number 1060, which is to establish the millage rate, and then ordinance number 1061, which is to adopt the budget. So we've discussed the budget. I'm going to do all the public hearing right now. The council will discuss. So if you have a question on the millage rate, or if you have anything that deals with the budget, we'll do that after the council discusses the budget. Okay. Council, questions?
I had a couple. Brenda, the reserves, what's the target we are looking for? 3 months of reserves of operating expenses for the new guidelines?
The earmark is 3 months worth of expenditures of the prior year. The earmark is usually 3 months of the prior year expenditures, less any transfers in and any capital. And that usually gives you a good earmark of what you would want to have in reserve. So it's usually a little over, with ours, it's a little over $2 million that we want to have in reserves, and that's a 3-month earmark. And because we're on a barrier island, you would really want to have more than 3 months because of the devastation that you would get from any water surge or whatever, and you really want to have between 3 and 6 months. But 3 months is a good minimum, because if the city goes down, the main thing that you're going to want to have is the frontline police and fire getting up and running, and the public works people. You're not going to be paying for your fixed assets or purchasing anything. You're going to have bodies there out on the streets, making sure that people are safe, the fires are put out, and the roads are clear. That is bodies, that's personnel, and that's labor. That's what you're going to be paying. That's why you need 3 months, at minimum 3 months worth of expenditures, and that's why you use that as an earmark, 3 months worth of operating expenditures. Because by the time you get FEMA money in here or any other money, you're going to be drained.
I'm sorry.
We 700. We have roughly 700 in there. That's only about 5 or 6 weeks, I suppose, of operating amount. The pilot, the Hunt community pilot, I thought we had a fixed price on that, like 110,000. Looks like last year was 100,000. That's come down to 95.9. That fluctuates. I thought we had a signed contract with them that they would give us a set amount every year.
But there's a formula in there based on an index, I guess, on the number of units that is rented, and then it's fixed to also an index. I would have to get the formula and the actual contract,
Okay.
but it's based on the number of houses rented and their formula.
Yeah, that's all I got.
All right, other comments?
I just want to point out, for general knowledge, that the millage rate in Satellite Beach going down is the largest reduction in all the major municipalities in the county. Although it seems like a fairly insignificant amount of money saved on a tax bill, again, these little budget actions are cumulative in nature, so that over the years they'll put an extra bag of groceries on my neighbor's table, for example, and my neighbor does need that. But even greater than that, you can see that other communities, all right, are challenged to control their costs for many reasons. But I think the impact of the Citizens Advisory, the KPEG, all right, and the cooperation of the department heads, people sharpening pencils and really evaluating what it is that they can do and what they can get by with, has contributed to what I consider to be a great first start and first step in getting our taxes in line, maintaining our level and intensity of services, and finding new opportunities or preparing for new opportunities throughout the next fiscal year. Matter of fact, I've received at least 1 or 2 recommendations from private citizens regarding the management of certain facilities that may save us additional money during this coming tax year. So again, I'm encouraged with these numbers. I'm discouraged with how we allowed our reserves to get to the level that they're at. But again, it'll just take work on everyone's part to get them back where they belong, so that we'll be more secure as a community. That's about all I have to say.
I want to say I am very, very proud of the city staff, of the city citizens who all contributed to the KPEG effort, and to council and the new, and the city staff includes the new interim city manager, We did what many believed was undoable, and that was making efficient government happen. Now, are we to where we need to be? No. But we're a lot farther down the road than we were last year. $2,640 went into reserves last year. $2,640. We're putting in $143,000, and we're paying down debt. We're standing up and being counted on the CRA. We're doing a lot of things, and that affects our ability to reduce our tax rate. But reduce it we did. And I didn't even know that statistic. That was an interesting statistic, the most in the county. So we reduced our tax rate, not as much as we'd like. I wanted to see, as an example, I wanted to see a 10% cut. I think everybody's seen that email. I wanted to see a 10% cut in the department reductions. But you know what? This is politics. You throw something out there and you try to hit it, and you end up with 7.1%, and you're darn happy to get 7.1%. Because what we've done is we've started the effort moving. And people are internalizing the idea about efficient government. And we're getting there, folks, and we will get there. We just need to continue at it. And I also like the point that Ms. Sanderson brought up last week, or last meeting, whenever the heck that was, which was we will continue to look for efficiencies throughout the year. And so this is the final budget that we're going to approve, or first reading, hopefully maybe, approve tonight. Second reading, 19 September, but this ain't the final budget. The budget will evolve throughout the year, and hopefully we will find even more efficiencies. Like Councilman French said, I too am getting emails weekly from citizens with more ideas. This KPEG effort needs to continue, and I think it will. All of the citizens, or most of the citizens who partook of that, as well as most of the city staff, I think are behind that effort, and that needs to continue, because this is the type of results we will get. And I am very, very proud of all the citizens who have participated and all the city staff. Thanks.
Thank you. Great comments. I also echo that. We had 3 meetings in August. We have the one tonight, and then one more. So, and it's not just meetings; it's the amount of time spent on looking at the budget. And the only thing I echo on that, Lloyd, I was thinking about the greatest deduction without loss of personnel, nor services. And I think that's the important thing. I mean, you can cut. But and there was a chance. I mean, there were 3 police on the table, but that did not happen. And I think that's resilient on the staff's part too. A great effort. I do have one question. There is no money in here for grants, and I just like the council to know that there's a couple of ways to do that. If you see a grant, you might have to pay up front, and you might need about $5,000. I don't know where you're going to get it from, but if something comes along with a zero match, you may have to figure out where that comes from. There is no money. I don't see us adding it right now. But if you want a grant, and there could be some, you're going to have to.
Well, Brenda and I talked about this today, and what we came up with is a possibility of about $20,000 from capital asset reserves. So there is the possibility there. We've also talked, some of the department heads said that they can write some grants too, and they have in the past, but we're not, we haven't finished with that yet, so that is a possibility. It's not a lot there, but there is some.
I would also submit there's probably not a lot of grant money out there running around.
No, there's not. There may be one that you might want. Probably not much out there.
But that's a good point, though, Mr. Mayor. What's the status of the grant RFP?
We left. There were so many other issues that had come up. Where we are is the issue was pay as you go, and I think the issue with that was, as I was finding out, there were a couple either misconceptions or changes. First of all, you can't pay someone just for a successful grant. You have to pay them for their efforts. In other words, if they're going to sit down and spend 20 hours, they have to be paid for that time. No one wants to work for free. So, and that's a fair assessment. And then the other issue is a lot of the federal grants do not allow you to pay a percentage, pay nothing and then a percentage of the grant received. I know some evidently, do they not, Brenda, have some administrative costs that might be offset depending on the grant? Yes. So, we're going to have to, if we see a grant, if there's a grant that, whether it be for the RMS or whatever it is, and somebody writes the grant and we don't get it, we can't just not pay them. We can pay as we go, but we're going to have to pay even if we don't get. And that's pretty much the issue. And that's ready to go. I mean, that is ready to go. That is ready to go. And there are a couple of grant writers locally with whom I'd like to speak. I was given some names out of FIT, so there could be some contacts there as well.
Just one quick clarification. Over the last 6 months or so, we have had personnel depart voluntarily, all right, that we have chosen not to replace. That's a different situation, as I see it, than saying you no longer have a job because we're cutting the budget.
You mean because of my comment that we didn't lose anyone?
Right.
Well, but we didn't cut,
Right, that's what I've said. In other words, it was attrition.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Okay, I'd like to thank you for, I'm going to open this up for public hearing. The way I'd like to do the public hearing, this is Satellite Beach's budget for the years 2012, 2013. I would like to allow Satellite Beach residents to speak first and comment on the budget, the millage rate being set at 8.3559, and the budget, as you've seen in the presentation, and at the committee. So I'd like residents first, and then we'll have non-residents speak. So you have 3 minutes. You are on YouTube. Please state your name and resident or non-resident. Sir, Mr. Hinton.
I've tried very hard to pay attention, and as I saw the budget projected,
So your name and...
I'm sorry, Charles Hinton, I live at 585 Teakwood, and of course that's a resident.
Thank you.
As I watched the screen up there, I did not see any of the details. I saw huge amounts of money taken out of the various departments, but I did not see any details, so I don't know any way that I could comment on whether I disagreed with it or not. Is this what we're starting now? Is this the budget hearing, the public budget hearing that's called for in the charter? Is that what we're doing now?
This is the first hearing, and then the adoption will be on the 19th. We need to have two. Yes, sir.
But this is a result of multiple workshops.
Yes, we've had three workshop special meetings.
I'll acknowledge that I may not have all the details on the charter, but I believe the charter said that after this budget is prepared and advertised, that there will be a meeting called for that. And I wonder, is this the meeting that's called for that?
Yes, sir.
Sir, I believe that what I've seen today is a charade, because first off, you have to have some sort of knowledge in order to study this so you can understand it. And we have not had that opportunity. And with the gross numbers that I saw placed up there, I have no idea what was taken out of the fire department, what was taken out of the police department. There's no way that you can publicly comment on something other than to rubber stamp it. And so it appears to me that this is not in accordance with the charter. It appears to me that the budget should be published so people can read and understand it. Because I'm a reading and telling guy, I'm a degree in accounting, but I don't see that the audience out here can make a fair comment on the content of what the budget of what we saw. So that appears to me that this doesn't meet the requirements of the charter.
Thank you, sir. Have there been any proposed budgets placed any place, like in the library?
The initial proposed one is on there, it's just the revisions
for this meeting have not been placed.
Okay, tell me that again. Where are they?
Library, and we have the initial proposed budget that's on the city's website. It's just the revisions have not gone out there. My
Okay.
schedule has been full.
Thank you. Other public comment?
I guess for clarification on that comment, would they like to see line items?
I think so.
Okay. Is that something that is requested to
It's at
bring it into the public records? Or?
It's available.
Okay.
Roger Goodis, resident, Satellite Beach. Good evening, council. Good evening, staff. Good evening, citizens. I believe I have the copy that you're looking for. I, too, was looking for detail, and apparently it wasn't posted on the website. I was hoping to look at it this afternoon, but nonetheless, I have a hard copy, so, and my understanding from the city manager's comments, we will get that tonight. We do need time to study it. Even though I've participated in every meeting, there are some changes here. And I'd like a chance to review them fairly. You all have, I assume you have it maybe. I don't know. I don't have it. I have it now. It's kind of strange to have a second reading here in another 2 weeks or 1 week, and that's when potentially citizens will come out and speak about all these line items. Hopefully they'll write in to the website with their comments sooner than later. I do take issue with the CRA budget that's proposed in here. I thought we hired consultants to consider a separate audit, a separate board, a separate budget, and to ensure that this was done in accordance with 163 and all the other good laws. If anything, we probably should have had a CRA meeting prior to this date to resolve the budget. And then I come down to a fact with the CRA budget increasing by about $182,000. And if most people don't know, I live in the CRA. And we as citizens in the CRA are very concerned about this. Thank you.
Other public, sir?
Patrick Mulcahy. First, I'd like to,
Residents or non-residents?
resident,
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to thank Councilman Billman because I have done a lot of reading on his website. And this morning I read my invitation, which I consider it, and basically my ignorance is not your fault. I appreciate the work that you all put in. I have just started and I plan on getting active in this community. I have some personal issues that I'm not going to bring up this evening, that I'm not very happy with the way the management has dealt with them. So I will be dealing with them. But I would like to thank you for what you've done. I'd like to, in the future, consider, my input would be, as far as the city of Satellite Beach and the actual workmen that you have in the city, you ought to be damn proud of them. And when you're doing your budgeting, I would not consider looking at their wages or their benefits. If anything, I would look at increasing them. They do work hard. When you look at the appearance of the city, they do an extremely good job. And personally, I believe there's other ways that things can be cut. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Other public comment?
When are you going to have a non-resident?
We'll take all the residents, Vic, then I'll get Don.
Don
Tom McLendon, resident. Yeah, I would assume that probably over 99% of us entered this building through this entranceway. I don't know how many people have stopped and looked at that monument and a big rock over there, right in the center of the breezeway. Part of that is a tribute to Percy Hedgecock, but the part that really strikes me, considering the city was incorporated in 1957, it says Percy Hedgecock served the city as mayor between 1957 and 1973. Under his vision and leadership, he helped the town of 400 develop into a debt-free city of 10,000, of which, debt-free city of 10,000, of which we can all be proud. I'd be pretty proud of that too. We're a long ways away from a debt-free city. I heard the comments from several previous speakers about wanting line item details and whatnot. I think those workshops, budget hearings, I think are posted on YouTube. If you want that information, I think it's available if you come in and request it. I don't have it. Quite frankly, I'm relying on you guys to do the best job you could. That being said, I would like to congratulate all of you on the hard work that you put into this. There's been a lot of rancor and discord during this period. We have arrived at this point. I won't debate whether we should go forward or not tonight. Throughout this effort, I've heard comments from citizens that, well, that would make no more difference in your tax bill than a Happy Meal. Well, I'm telling you what, I can store probably more Happy Meals in my house than, or I don't think they'd all fit than what I could buy with my tax bill. As far as the Hunt Pinnacle project pilot, I don't even know if the pilot is still underway, because the tax appraiser put that housing on the tax rolls, is my understanding, the housing only, not the property. So when that pilot was $95,000, I think it decreased to $76,000. The original estimates, when the city agreed to annex that, the assumptions were that that was going to generate $4.4 to $4.5 million of revenue. Of course, that didn't happen. Thank you.
Steve?
Steve Headley, resident. I'm going to echo something the first two speakers said. I don't know where we are in the budget process right now. I'm looking at the charter, and the charter requires that you guys adopt a budget and then the public comments on it. The way I'm reading what we're doing tonight is you're having public comments and then adopting a proposed budget. That's backwards. We're out of, I think we're out of sync here again. And I don't know how else to put it. It's very plain in the charter. You guys adopt a proposed budget, and by you guys, I'm not, don't take that the wrong way. Not use guys. The council adopts a budget, and then the public comments on it. It seems that the public is commenting on a non-adopted proposed budget at this point in time.
Fix is easy. I have it in front of me. The fix is easy. I thought that I'd get public comment first, so that if we want to make changes to the budget, I can do that. I have ordinance number 1060 and 1061 in front of me, and I can adopt the budget. We can adopt it and then do that, Steve. This is the public hearing. Sir, so I thought we'd have the public hearing first. There's really no way that could be adopt the budget, then we talk about it, and then we, go to second hearing? Jim?
I'll be honest that I don't recall verbatim what the
charter says, but my recollection of the statute on adoption of the budget is that the initial item that must be considered when you're going through the budget process is a public hearing on the proposed budget. And just from a practical standpoint, the purpose of having a public hearing before you approve something is that you allow public input before you take official action. If you adopt the budget, quote unquote, and then have public comment, it's kind of like the cart before the horse kind of a deal.
Well, that's the way I saw it.
So that, I mean, I don't recall exactly what the charter says, but state statute from my recollection says that the first action that must be taken by, in this case, the city council, is consideration of the proposed budget. The state statute preempts whatever is in the charter on that type of thing.
Okay, so we are conducting the public hearing okay, I'll do that.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Steve Case. This is the first meeting I've ever been in here. Satellite Beach resident. I live on 637 North Hitchcock Square. First, I would like to applaud each of you individually for the challenges that you had and the resolutions that you come to and the proposals you brought before the public tonight for discussion. They're both realistic. They're in line with what the community needs to be doing, fiscally being responsible. So the ability to actually drop the millage rate, I think, is something that is noteworthy and is something that you are able to accomplish through due diligence and hard work. There's always going to be an element within any organization, if they feel that their particular part of it is being reduced in any way, is going to take offense to it. And we understand that. But the reality is we have a requirement to live within a budget that we can sustain not only this year but in years to come. And I thank you for your work.
Thank you. Other public comment? Yes. No other citizens, Satellite Beach? Non-citizens. Vic?
Good evening, council and members. My name is Vic Broomgard. On February the 11th of 2012, I was a resident of Satellite Beach. I have been a long-term resident of Satellite Beach, donating hundreds, if not thousands of hours of my own time to the Satellite Beach Fire Department and the Satellite Beach Police Department and to the Marine Patrol. Sunday, 2 weeks ago at 6:26 in the morning, one of the citizens that's in this room right now called me up, and I recognized his voice, trying to demean me and put me down. I am going to, if you don't mind, continue. Is that okay?
Is this
it's relevant.
The public hearing on the
budget? It is. And I'd like to say that the reason I bring that up is because I'm going to directly talk about Section 5 of Ordinance 1061, which talks about the Community Redevelopment Agency fund budget of 1.8 plus million. Now, like another member who talked, I think there's some problems with that Community Redevelopment Agency fund. And one of the things that I think is a problem is it is widely known by many members that a certain department in Satellite Beach was not playing by the rules under Florida Statute 163 for a very long time. And the citizens of Satellite Beach are going to have to make up for that department not doing its job. I've been highly critical of that department, and that department has charged me with criminal misdemeanor, which I'll talk about later. But I would like to second the fact that I do believe that that Community Redevelopment Agency should be separate and apart from council, and that we should have a very highly looked at audit of that particular Community Redevelopment Agency. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, I'm going to bring 3A back to the council. Any comments that you heard that you'd like to discuss? Okay, at this time I'd like to press on to 3B. which is ordinance number 1060, and Mr. Beadle.
Ordinance number 1060, an ordinance of the City of Satellite Beach, Brevard County, Florida, decreasing the millage rate 0.5% under the aggregate rollback rate, establishing the FY 2012-2013 operating millage rate, providing an effective date. That's the first reading of ordinance number 1060.
Ann, any comments?
None.
Thank you. I'd like to bring it back to the council for comments and motion.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt ordinance 1060, decreasing the millage rate 0.5% under the aggregate rollback rate and establishing the FY 2012-2013 operating millage rate at 8.3979. I'm sorry, disregard. 8.3559.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilman French, second by Vice Mayor Rhodes for ordinance number 1060. Based on the comments that have been said, I will take public comment. Any public comment on the millage rate? Ron?
Ron Jagoudis, resident, Satellite Beach. I think everyone has worked hard here through the workshops, and I didn't recognize that fact earlier for everyone to know that. Those who attended are pretty much up to speed, but I do think in all fairness, the Part A of this three-part should have been a little more better organized. But the millage rate, it is what it is right now. And it's a good shot in the right direction. Thank you.
Thank you. On the millage rate only, sir? Millage rate?
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Jim Charles, Hinton of the city. It appears to me that a great deal of emphasis is being put on the millage rate when most of the significant cities in Brevard County have a utility tax of 10%. We do, and money that goes into the general fund. When that money goes into the general fund, they are able, therefore, to have a lower millage rate simply because they're getting it from the utilities, which we do not do. So it appears to me when you have in your budget that the comparison of all the cities of the millage rate, it's an irrelevant list because the millage rate is only part of the picture. The picture should, whether or not this is too heavy or not, should be based upon the total burden per city. The burden per city, not that one single source. So by all this emphasis on the millage rate, they're really deceiving people as to how much that they're paying.
Millage rate. Okay, I'd like to bring it back and
Vic Brungard, currently non-resident. I will be a resident by the end of the year. I would like to really thank the council for all the hard work and a number of citizens for the very hard work and the interim city manager for putting together this budget. I think while Mr. Hinton is probably correct, I would like to see that this be adopted, ordinances 1060 and 1061 tonight, with the proviso that that is a first reading. And if I'm not mistaken, we have more readings of this. But I think we need to move forward because we do have a budget process that the municipalities have to fit within Brevard County and state of Florida guidelines. Thank you.
thank you. All right, Lenore, we have a motion?
Councilmember Billman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Rhodes?
Yes.
Councilman French?
Yes.
Mayor Garland?
Yes, and the ordinance passes unanimously on the first reading. I would just like to say something. I've been sitting up here 9 years, and a lot of times we had the highest millage rate, and people took shots at us then. But once, it's gone down. So we really have to take some credit for that.
And it's the highest reduction.
I mean, and that's the only thing. We didn't have a utility. We didn't have the com tax as much. And up until last year, we were the highest millage rate in the Space Coast League of Cities, at 16. Then Palm Bay trumped us. And now we're coming down this way. So I think, and Mr. Hinton, no disregard for you, sir, but I think we need to pat ourselves on the back a little bit. You, staff, and the council. I mean, I really do. I'm sorry, many years up here I was told, too high, get it down. And that's all.
I think we also need to point out that there is a utility tax. We do pay a utility tax. It's just that that 6% tax goes into the
Capital
asset fund. So we're paying a tax as well as our millage rate.
Right.
And the gas tax. And the gas tax and the com tax and bigger tax.
But it's not at the highest levels, which is good for us. Sorry. 3C, ordinance number 1061, Mr. Beadle.
Ordinance number 1061, an ordinance of the City of Satellite Beach, Brevard County, Florida, adopting FY 2012-2013 budget, providing an effective date. It's the first reading of ordinance number 1061.
Thank you. Ian?
No comment?
All right, I bring it back to the council for a motion.
Well, before we motion, this is where I do have an issue, and I do have an issue with the CRA numbers. I know a while back, I forget what meeting it was, but we actually discussed separating the CRA budget from the city budget. And I forget what the outcome of that discussion was. Obviously, the outcome was we're going to put it in the city budget. But
I'm going to let Brenda explain that, because what she did is she made a couple of calls to the state level, and there were some issues.
I understand you guys are doing what you feel that you need to do, but I do hear what the citizens are saying, and when I read this, I got a little heebie-jeebies looking at CRA numbers that we hadn't yet passed through the CRA. But please.
According to TRIM and also several other authority people that I contacted, since there was not two separate readings, one from the CRA, one from the City Council, you have to include that in our budget. So for TRIM purposes, this must be included in our budget, city budget. So you can adopt it. You cannot make any changes to the CRA budget. You can look at it, you can review it, but you cannot make any changes to the CRA budget.
Well, wait a second. I thought the meeting on the 13th was to do just that.
You can do that then, yes.
Oh,
but the
okay.
council cannot make any changes to it tonight.
And then the second reading.
On the 19th, your changes can be incorporated in there. You cannot increase it unless you go back to retrim and all of that. But you can make any modifications you want at that time, and that then it'll be put in the final budget on the 19th and shown there. But it must still be.
I understand the timing issues. I just really feel like we're being put in a square corner with the numbers.
And I understand that and I don't know how to say this to be fair, but our CGA staff did not advise us properly. And therefore, we found ourselves in a box, and thank goodness Brenda double-checked it on a couple of issues, including reallocation and so on. So we did get some corrections on what direction we had to go. Had this not been included tonight, we would have had to retrim, and that's a costly process, and we would have been in trouble. So, I applaud Brenda for bringing that to me, and we discussed it, and I said, get on it, let's get this, we want to make sure we're doing everything proper. And the only thing I have to say about having it be in this budget is that everybody can take a look at it. There is a certain amount of transparency. However, to actually make changes within that budget, it has to be done at the CRA board meeting on the 13th.
On the 13th.
So you're still within that, strictly that purview for any changes within the CRA budget.
Are the CGA people going to be there on the 13th?
Yes, they are.
Is there any sort of a metric in their contract that we can dock them for
Well,
inappropriate?
let me put it this way, that there are two aspects of their original contract that were lump sums. The administrative portion is not, and that's why we've been doing some of the extra work. We're trying to keep those costs down, and we are for the first, what was that, a quarter? And I don't have the exact figure, but it isn't the full amount that they could have billed us. And if you notice, there were only 2 representatives from CGA, not 3, so that was a lesser cost as well. So we have been working on that to keep that cost down. And I would just say, as a cautionary thing, let's get a product and move forward as best we can. I had asked them specifically when we could expect a new plan, and that would be in about a month. So I don't mean to go off track here, but...
But as far as the CRA budget is concerned, we're going to discuss it on the 13th
Correct.
and also approve it finally on the 27th?
No.
Or the 19th?
19th.
19th. Okay, so we'll discuss it on the 13th and at the CRA board meeting and all the changes. So you will not discuss next year's CRA budget on the 27th. It'll
Nope.
just be the recapitulation of this one.
No, the 27th will be the final fourth quarter budget amendment for this current year.
Okay. Okay.
It's fun, isn't it? I like it. I think it's fun.
Okay.
I do.
We do have ordinance number 1061 back to the council.
Our hands are kind of tied, aren't they, Mr. Mayor?
Well, we will have two more readings on the CRA budget, 13th and 19th.
But at the 19th, as the city council, we won't be able to make any input on the CRA budget, only at the CRA meeting with the CRA board. So we only had that one time to do it. That's the only time.
On the 13th. How about the 19th? How about the 19th?
Well, you have all your changes included in there.
For the second reading.
But we won't be able to make any changes unless it's the board.
Okay.
So it seems to me like we're going to need to have the first part of that meeting being an approval of the CRA's input to council, and then the second reading of the budget to include those approval numbers. I mean, isn't that legally the way it has to go?
The CRA budget, I do not think needs 2 readings.
Yeah.
If council wants to have a separate budget from the CRA, the CRA board has already approved having a separate budget. Now, council must approve having a separate budget. So they would have to have an actual meeting, have it as an agenda item, bring it to the council as an ordinance, have 2 readings on it to say that you want to have a separate budget. So it's too late for this year right now, so next year you will have a separate budget.
But you can't. Okay, sorry.
So that's why it's going to be included in the 9th and the 5th and the 19th of September,
13th.
Why is it too late now?
because for trim
Okay.
purposes, Department of Revenue requires that it be included in ours because the council did not separate the 2 budgets.
But to be clear, just to be clear, citizens are going to have 2 opportunities, all right, to review and comment on the CRA budget before the 19th. Only one. And are
On the
we
13th.
required to have 1, or are we required to have 2 reviews of the CRA budget?
Well, you've already had a preliminary one, but on the 13th, you will have the actual hearing from the board.
Okay.
And then on the 19th, we will have the final adopted budget by the council with your changes included in that budget.
Do we have to meet as the CRA first in order to have that?
Well, I think
second?
that's
I didn't hear.
what Greg brought up.
I didn't hear.
The CRA, we're just wondering if you need one hearing or two hearings on CRA budget, just CRA.
After it's separate?
Yeah, the 13th.
No, the way we have it here, do we, if we were to include the CRA budget in this particular ordinance, are we required to have two public hearings on the CRA budget?
As council, in that, the way it is now, there's going to be two hearings, which is tonight and on the...
But the question is, are we required as the CRA
No.
to have two
No.
hearings?
No.
But we're having a hearing tonight
Yes.
on numbers that haven't been through the CRA.
Yes, it has. The
But-
first time you've already...
Well, we discussed numbers, but these numbers weren't the numbers that I remember agreeing to that first
Correct.
time around.
But then you will adjust them on the 13th to be incorporated on the final one on the 19th. As long as you do not increase.
So I guess I'm asking why wasn't this number then the numbers that we agreed to on the first time around in the CRA? That would have made it cleaner, right?
I don't know what the numbers were.
Well, they weren't these.
Well, we included your opinions and the council's opinions at that time into this budget, and also staff's, CGA's opinions or comments into this budget at that time, for the beach accesses and for the contingency and sinking fund.
Let me make a general statement as to ordinances in general. It doesn't have to do per se with the budget ordinance, but you can make changes in ordinances between first and second reading that do not substantively change what goes on in the ordinance. And you can reduce items like zoning. If you have a zoning ordinance where you're going to rezone it from single-family residential to 15 units an acre, you can change that to 10 units an acre and you don't have to start over again. Similarly, if you're going to reduce the number that's going to be in Section 5, you're not going to have to go back and start the process over again. And you know, and my understanding from this conversation, because I haven't been privy to it, is that there is no independent, quote-unquote, independent budget for the CRA. It's included in the city's general budget. So whatever happens at the next CRA meeting, it's not a problem to take those recommendations, as long as they're less than 1.8, which is what it sounds like it's going to be, to insert that number in Section 5 and just have the second reading of Ordinance 1061 in 2 weeks.
Right.
So it's not really an issue from a substantive standpoint. It may be an issue
no, I
on how you
understand.
want it to get from point A to point B, but it's not going to be an issue regarding the ordinance.
Well, thank goodness for that, but it is tough to approve an ordinance with numbers that you didn't agree to the first time around. That's fundamentally an issue with me.
And, you know, having spent hundreds of hours in the seats out there, I know exactly how some people are feeling, that they would say, well, any change in the numbers could be substantial or substantive, I guess was your term, and that they would like to know what those were, you know, before we adopted the ordinance. But as I understand the situation, we do have the opportunity to adjust the numbers, and the citizens will also have an opportunity to see those numbers in detail,
Yes.
all right, before we adopt the whatever budget we adopt on the second reading.
That's correct.
Because we could adjust our regular budget numbers as...
Correct.
So,
But,
As long as they go down.
what's the
as long as they go down.
What's
Okay.
the time frame between readings? It's definitely, it's,
I don't remember if there's a specific time period for budget ordinances, but generally, I think the statute says a minimum of 10 days between reading of ordinances. But the problem is, I think, for purposes of doing these particular ordinances, you have to get notices for when they're going to be read on both occasions. And the other problem with these types of ordinances is that you can't have budget readings, unless they change the statute, on the days that the county commission or the school
Correct.
board consider their budget.
And that's why you adopted the calendar. You approved our budget calendar.
Right.
And it had those specific dates on there.
Conundrum. But we're up against the wall is what you're telling us.
In essence,
Now,
yes.
I guess what I need to ask is, what can we do better next year so that this doesn't happen? We need to plan ahead so
Well,
that this doesn't happen next
You'll
year.
have a CRA director that will also take care of a lot of this, like we had last year, the prior year. It went smoothly, when it came time for, when it came time for budgets, I should
Yes,
say, not,
Not all of it went smoothly.
no, I mean, when it came time for the budgets, it really
Right.
did.
Right.
You know,
So
I'm
in
not
other
talk-
words, what
I'm
we
not
should
talking
have
about-
done was we should have had another CRA meeting pre-tonight to get the first order budget,
Council,
Council needed to approve.
to approve the CRA's first budget, our first budget discussion of last month.
no, to have a separate budget, to approve it, have a separate budget, because the CRA board already did, and now the council would have to approve having a separate budget as an ordinance.
Okay, so that's why this won't happen again
Readings.
next year.
That's
Yes.
right, and it required
Because
two
the
readings.
CRA budget, section 5 won't even be in here.
That's
Right.
correct.
That's going to be a separate, so that's what we did agree to. We did agree to have a second.
As the CRA board, but not as the council. That was the misunderstanding or the information that was not provided to you by CGA staff.
The confusion was of the ordinance that was required and the two readings.
So for trim purposes, we have to include that in ours, for Department of Revenue. And I do not want to retrim. It's very expensive.
Other questions? Okay, we're still on 1061, and we'll have to see what,
Again, we're between a rock and a hard place, so I guess we should make a motion.
well, we're gonna, yeah, and we're gonna discuss the CRA budget 13th, 19th. So it's not, just it cannot go above 181, 1812278, is that right?
Can only go down.
Please note, Ms. Interim City Manager, that we need to have a discussion with CGA on the 13th regarding their failure to have council adopt the ordinance that we had discussed to separate the budgets. Please take a note
Okay.
and remind us that we need to do that.
Okay.
A little face-to-face would be a nice thing.
Okay. We're here.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to adopt ordinance 1061, adopting the FY 2012-2013 budget for the first reading.
A second motion?
Okay, I have a motion by Councilman Billman, second by Vice Mayor Rhodes. And as in past, I will open this for public discussion. We're just going to adopt the budget, first reading, 1061. I would like, we are going to discuss the CRA portion of this on the 13th. So comments can be on the other sections. Pat, good evening.
Pat Utek, Satellite Beach. After running on a track team in high school, I find that being limited to where I have difficulty getting out of a chair to be a pain in the ass. Literally and figuratively, excuse me.
You don't have to approve that.
I have a matter of a question more than an actual statement. Section 7 says the finance director shall be directed. I believe that's a be wrong, that you do not have the right to direct the finance director directly. If that were to be replaced with the city manager, then it would be proper, or might be proper, and that's my question. But stating it directly puts the council essentially directing a department, and I don't think that's right.
Thank you. Correct as is. Is that just historical?
Yes.
Thank you. Don?
Don McClendon, resident. Listening to this discussion, one sitting out in the audience who has not participated in a lot of these hearings, our budget workshops, our budget meetings, would listen to you guys and say, wait a second, these guys, they don't have a clue, or procedures or whatever. A lot has changed. We have new faces on council, but then again, we have council members that have attended multiple budget hearings in the past. So it's a collaborative effort. We did have a resignation of our CRA director. I'm not trying to make excuses. It bothers me, I think, as much as I've noticed it's bothering you guys. It doesn't look good. I don't think there's a real valid excuse, except if you did specifically hire this firm to do the CRA background work and legwork and present it to council. They have failed you greatly. Procedurally, we have a city attorney that's been here, seems like as long as I have, and you, Mr. Mayor, and Mr. Rhodes, have been here. So there's either a communication breakdown or things have went so far out of whack with the personnel changes and the political environment we're in now. So I would just caution, we need to make sure we have our ducks in a row. Maybe sometimes they get out of line, you can't get them back in line, but we got to do the best we can with what we got right now. We have a date certain deadline that just has to be presented. We have to do that one way or the other. We have to reach to that point. And some people may say, well, these guys are all new, they don't have a clue what the heck they're doing. Could be true. I do a lot of things I've never done before, and I don't have a heck until I get some experience at it. So we could say go back and just put new faces that have been here for 20 years and go right back to the same thing and keep building our debt level as we have. Or we can continue on this concerted effort to reduce our expenditures and hopefully the total budget. Thank you.
Thank you.
Joel Sugars, resident. I sit here and I've both conducted and participated in a lot of meetings. The difference between the meetings are I was not constrained by the Sunshine Law. So what I feel like I'm seeing here is a lot of the pre-discussions I used to have prior to the meetings, because you guys can't talk things over before a meeting. That said, boy, I thought I was listening to the Abbott and Costello for a while. Who's on first, what's on second, I don't know, on third. Not your fault. But that's the very reason I am such a fan of the CRA, because of exactly what I saw going on up here. I don't know what it is. Do you know what it is? Do you know what it is? Man, all I wanted to say was that's my reason I'm such a fan of CRAs.
You say that tongue in cheek.
I thought he meant. Actually, though, I will say this, Joel. The CRA is becoming a great organization. 7 people. The meetings are going 4.5 hours. You'll see a world of difference in CRAs if you come to the meeting on the 13th. It's a great, Dave Allison, where's Dave? Dave is here. Is on the board. Ed Kinberg, working a lot better.
You'll also probably see an interesting discussion with our CRA consultants that we're paying a lot of money to make sure this doesn't happen.
Well, that's true too. Ron, sorry. Took your time.
Ron Dragutis, resident. If it has to be done this way, to include it in the trim notice, then so be it. But what I don't like is tossing blame on somebody who's not here to defend themselves. And there were perhaps miscommunications on all sides, but I do seem to recall there was to be a consideration for separation. And this is not the time to talk about it. It will be at the next CRA meeting. Let's get through this. Thank you.
Thank you. Vic? No CRA, because that's, CRA is next, I already said no section 5.
No.
What? Okay, thank you.
Vic Brungart, currently not resident. I'd like to, once again, recognize the efforts that have gone into tonight's meeting with the need to pass, because of trim, as Ron Dragutis just said, something tonight. I would also like to just briefly comment that previous speaker Joel Schuters just cracked me up, because I've been involved with community redevelopment authorities in different states for the last 20 years. They are always a bone of contention, because if they're not run properly, and I don't think it would be fair to say that this one has been run properly. Maybe it has been. I think that a lot of attention should be paid to the Satellite Beach Community Redevelopment Authority. Thank you.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilman Billman, second by Vice Mayor Rhodes, ordinance number 1061. Lenore?
Councilman French?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Rhodes?
Yes.
Councilman Billman?
Yes.
Councilman Vick?
Yes, and the ordinance passes unanimously on the first reading. And the second reading on that will be 2 weeks from tonight on the 19th. And I think that meeting is going to start a little at 6:45. We're going to have some discussions before that on some other items. So the budget meeting will start at 6:45 on the 19th. But I mean, the council meeting will start at 6. We're going to have a report on 175, 185 money, a couple other things that we have out. Okay, agenda item number 4, ordinance number 1058. And I will send that to you, Mr. Beadle.
Yes, there was a draft ordinance that was prepared previously, and it was sent back to Planning and Zoning Advisory Board to consider the proposed ordinance in the context of the comp plan and the CRA plan. I got this late Friday afternoon and talked to John yesterday about it, and then started looking through it and spent a lot of time talking to John today about it. I don't know that this needs to be sent back to Planning and Zoning Advisory Board, but there are some issues that need to be dealt with, and whether council wants to do that tonight and have an ordinance prepared for the next meeting or not. But the primary issue that I have with the ordinance as proposed relates to, did you send? Did they get a copy of this?
No,
Okay.
just John.
Okay. Basically, the primary issue was in section 4, or paragraph 4 of section 2, the prior draft essentially requested that the PZAB review this and determine what, especially the A-frame and the flat boards or flat signboard signs, would be constructed of. Basically, I think everybody assumes that it's going to be a certain type of a thing, but I also know from experience, both representing or being involved with local governments, that other issues come up unless the regulations are written, written specifically, for lack of a better way. And the other primary issue relates to the fact that in paragraph 4, it says the architectural design of the sign is to be pre-approved by the building official. The problem with that is that there are no parameters to guide the building official on what the quote-unquote architectural design is, or what types of parameters are to be used for that. And what I'm referring to is there was one specific example that was discussed at the PZAB meeting that had to do with these flat signboard signs, which
we do have one.
Yeah, I was just going to show them. That the sign be, or the sign face be covered with a metal, or be framed with a metal type of a or metal, I guess I shouldn't say metal type, but with metal. The concern that I have, having to represent staff, is in theory somebody could do one of these signs and just put construction paper in it, and I mean that's the extreme example, but they could put construction paper in it and just frame it in metal, or have, malleable metal around the outside, and that would be, legally sufficient, using that as the regulatory framework for that type of a sign, which I don't believe is what PZAB was wanting to have as an end result either. The other issue is what is architectural design, and then the other issue is that we don't really have a definition for flat signboard signs. I think, other than the fact that they show the samples as to what it is that they want to allow. Those are the main issues. The other issues that are out there have to do with, it appears that the A-frame and flatboard sign should be approximately the same size. There shouldn't be a difference in sizing, which there is. The other issue is, and again, this gets back to the speech issues that I keep bringing up all the time, the proposed temporary banner signs under this ordinance are actually larger than what's otherwise allowed under our code. We allow 32 feet total square footage, and under this proposal, it will be 48 total square footage, 24 on each side. So it would seem that there needs to be some either predicate for allowing a larger banner sign for the temporary sign or not. And the other one was, which I'd already talked to John about, and we're going to add in to paragraph 5 is unless council directs otherwise, is that when they make the application for the permit, that they indicate where the sign's going to be located.
Okay, before we have discussion, I would like to introduce Gail Howlett. He is the chairman of the PZAB, and John. Before we haven't read the ordinance yet, but there are some questions on the contents. Any discussion on that, John? What are you thinking, Dale?
Well, Mr. Beadle basically identified essentially 5 points that, in this email. Conceptually, what I would suggest is one of two things is that we identify what the real concerns are and see if we can come up with a consensus on how to fill in the blanks, essentially use your loose ends, or it goes back to PZAB to fine tune it. If we or you as a council can fill in the blanks, then we can make those changes, and we can roll it to the next council meeting for first reading, and then on forward to second reading. So it's really up to the council how they want to proceed before we get into a discussion on these points in here, if that's the direction you wanted to go.
Yeah, we should probably give, I know that the PZAB met for a workshop over 3 hours, and then they met three times, and then they met at a regular meeting. So and they seem to be coming up with a lot of, stuff that we can work with. However, if there's, Jim, just some things that we need to tweak, we should probably send something back to the PZAB so you guys aren't just spinning your wheels saying, I wonder what they're thinking.
If I can speak.
Yes, Dale, you may.
When you talk about architectural design, we as a board did discuss that, and because it was left to John as the sole person to make that decision, we felt that that was the right thing to do. So we did not specifically do that for that reason. So if you want us to come up with a specific, you need to have a sign that is of what material, define architectural, then we would have to go back and do that.
Let me just give you what the issue is. There's a concept in Florida, actually it's in almost every state, but Florida's a little stricter on it. It's called unlawful delegation of authority. And basically, it's unlawful delegation of authority, and basically, there's administrative staff has a right to use a certain amount of discretion, but there have to be parameters within which they exercise their discretion. So just by saying we're leaving this task to the building official to decide whether or not this architectural design is appropriate without having any parameters there, basically leaves the city open to attack because of that.
Okay.
And, so that's where that comment is coming from. You don't have to be, nuts and bolts kind of stuff, but you need to at least have some general parameters under which the building official can exercise that discretion on whether or not to approve or disapprove something.
Now,
and the other thing, and John, I sent John an email that summarized it, and I mean, one of the things that I talked to John about had to do with, I think that generally speaking, that the board is not looking to allow people, for lack of a better way of putting it, to put up the narrow gauge metal signs with their corrugated cardboard or plastic that you stick it on. But conceptually, somebody could go put malleable metal around it, and that would be within the confines of a metal frame. And that's why I'm saying I think there needs to be some sort of, parameters, because I think John said that you guys were looking for rigid material signs. Things like that need to be in there. Whether you need to talk about mills or not, I don't know. But I think that's just something, again, along the lines of the kind of things you need to look at.
Okay.
John, you had 5 criteria, you had 5 things that you wanted to discuss with the council.
Well, if it's going back to the plan and zoning, then that's where those will be discussed.
Okay.
It was just a question that if council wants to discuss it and make those decisions, then it wouldn't need to go back to P&Z. But if you wanted to go back to P&Z, I don't have a problem with that.
I don't think we could make it. I'm going to send it back. All right?
And if there's more questions that you might have, I'll talk to you directly or through John, whichever way you want to do it, or we can set up a conference call and talk about it before your next meeting.
Okay. That's the information that we didn't have last time. We did speak about it, but we thought John could handle it.
Okay. What I'll do is I'll send to all the board members this email from the city attorney, and that way we all can have some background information on it for the next meeting.
Vice Mayor would like to say.
I just had a question. The way we are going to do an ordinance is 1 year from the adopted date of this ordinance, if it passes. I'm a little hesitant on that. We've never really had an ordinance like this. A lot of people are thinking incorporate Satellite Beach along A1A and some Indian Harbor Beach areas that have an excess of signage that looks a bit messy at times. And I don't know, 1 year to review it. Has your board considered having it 6 months or 3 months just to kind of look at it again and see how it's working?
We did consider it, and we thought that the 1 year, both for the business people, because they're the ones that are going to benefit from this, but also to give us a chance to really take a look at it and see what is going to happen. I don't think in a quarter, maybe 6 months, but I don't think in a quarter you'll find out.
And also that, I believe we put in here that the permits are good for 90 days, and then they would have to reapply for new permits.
Exactly.
There was primarily a provision put in there for the multi-tenant locations where there wasn't sufficient frontage to meet the requirements of all the tenants, but all the permits will expire 90 days from issue.
All right, with that in mind, we're going to consider ordinance number 1058. I want to take,
You don't need to do anything right now. It was just brought up to council if council wanted to proceed with it.
send it back to
or
the
send it back to
PZAB, and no public comment. They can come to the PZAB meeting on probably 17th?
Yes.
Okay, yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Thanks. Sorry, Dale.
Oh, that's okay.
Okay. This is good. Hey, don't say that. All right, agenda item number 5 is a public hearing. Good evening, Mr. LaRue. Good evening. And it's ordinance number 1059. And as soon as Jim gets set up, Jim, if you could read ordinance number 1059.
Ordinance number 1059, an ordinance of the City of Satellite Beach, Brevard County, Florida, amending the comprehensive plan based on updated data and analysis, including amendments to the text of the future land use element of the 1998 comprehensive plan as amended regarding compatibility of development with military installations, to revise and update the existing goals, objectives, and policies in accordance with the mandates set forth in Chapter 163 Florida statutes, authorizing transmittal of these amendments to the East Central Florida Regional Planning Council, State Land Planning Agency, and other applicable agencies for review and comment as required by Florida statutes, providing a conflicts clause and severability clause, and providing an effective date. This is the first reading of ordinance number 1059.
Thank you. Ann?
Mr. LaRue, you're going to go ahead and discuss the amendments to include military installations as they pertain to land use compatibility.
Yes, I am, and we will not only talk about that, but we are also, as you remember, the comp plan amendments that we had done before, which are also part of the elements. I would refer you to, in the military aspect, if you'll turn to 1.6 and 1.7 in your comp plan amendments, that of course is where those are. Just to briefly explain to you again or remind the public, what happened is that we were faced with the aspect of the state requirements to make sure that the land use policies that the city of Satellite Beach had were consistent with one of the state requirements, which really gave us a deadline. As you remember, it was June 30th, and we worked in terms of being able to come back and let them know that we were already looking at the revisions for the comp plan amendments that we had made earlier, and that we would fold these within. But one of the just to remind you, one of the things I was supposed to do last time was go before the local planning agency, CPAB, and make sure that they would review these. And then you also remember that we had a representative from the Patrick Air Force Base that is our advisory member that was also there, and also the interim city manager and myself also transmitted a letter to the 5th Wing, 45th Space Wing Commander. I want to make sure I get the language right so I don't get in trouble like last time. So we did do that, and so that they are aware of the policies that we are undertaking in terms of land use. And simply we come tonight with a recommendation from the local planning agency that they are consistent with the comp plan, and they've gone over these. But more important, or as important, we had Mr. Janicki, who is representing the Patrick Air Force Base, that also gave his blessing. That's in the records. Again, on 1.6 and 1.7, you'll see some of the policies, and without reading all of them, it's part of the language that is within the state statute that we encourage the compatible land use, health, and coordination, and it'll become important for us with any future land use, as you know, recently annexed areas that are contiguous, we need to make sure that we're consistent in land use policies. So we agreed to transmit any comp plan amendments and proposed changes to land development regulations, which we would do. But the important thing is there is a study, and it's the Air Installation Compatible Use Zone adopted by the Patrick Air Force Base, and we are consistent with that in terms of what's consistent with that particular study, which basically looks at the safety and noise standards of flights and things in terms of communities. Fortunately, we're not in the crash zone area or in the noise aspect, but we made sure that in the outer horizontal surface area, there are heights that you are not supposed to go above, and it almost is, and I won't use the term ludicrous, but for us to say that we'd be 400 feet, you certainly have other standards that would allow you not to be doing that, but we would put that policy in because it's important to have a policy that does speak to something that would be restrictive. We want to make sure that we encourage the particular information for any complaining assistant grants, facilitating, because that's important, because you may get a positive sort of a grant situation at times that would come through that, and we are now in the position of being able to coordinate with them on that. And again, to facilitate the exchange of information, we continue to utilize the representative ex officio member for the city's local planning agency. So these are the policies. I wanted to let you know these are the policies that you remember we had some rough policies before, but these are more specific. Without boring you, there is a study that shows that shows the air installation compatible use zone, and it's very particular, but we went through that, and we're in good position for these policies. They are consistent in my mind with what's going on. So,
Jim, are any lands in Satellite Beach, in particular like Tortoise Island, in the ACUs or in any of these areas?
The only area that was slightly is in what they call the outer horizontal surface area, which is minimal, and that's why you have that policy about the 400 feet.
Okay,
so we are not like Brevard County. You remember there were some policies that we showed you last time in Brevard County where there were actually some land areas. I'm not the air expert, but a lot of the planes as they go out toward the water area, and so we were lucky enough to be far enough south to be out of the zone, and they agreed. So,
even Tortoise Island.
Yeah. So okay. So that part is one of my objectives that I was supposed to bring to you, and remember there were also some policies from the. Remember what our objective tonight is to transmit the comp plan amendments that we had at the workshop, and you did have me make some corrections. And I did do that. There are a couple that, let me ask you, are there any questions on the military policies at this point? Anyone?
And Jim, I read this, but I just want to say this. We will do the first reading tonight, and then you will transmit this, and then once approved by Tallahassee, we will have the second reading?
Yes, we'll have the adoption now. Remember now, these are folded in the comp plan amendments, the revisions of the comp plan amendments. And remember last time we made, in a second I'll go over some of the corrections that you had me do for that. And that is exactly right, Mayor. What will happen is the military policies as well as the comp plan amendments will be transmitted to the DEO, Department of Economic Opportunity, for their review and comment. And then, fortunately, it's on an expedited review, so it's a little bit better than it used to be in the old days of the ORC report. So we will have all that. It will come back to you for another public hearing, and then you will go from there.
Okay, that's good.
That is it for the military coordination, but you probably would like me to review a little bit in terms of the policies that we had talked about last time. That you wanted me to correct in the future land use element and some of the other elements. Do you remember in terms of the comp plan amendments? If you'll...
Jim, I have a question on page 1-2.
Okay.
Commercial and services. Change the impervious surface for development in this category from 60 to 7%. Can you just kind of briefly explain
Yeah, you
what
remember
the
why
thought
we did
process
that?
was there?
Yeah, the process there, again, to remind you, was that that's consistent with our land development code, and we didn't want to be, our land development code, in fact, from John Stone, that was one of the inputs that we had along the meeting. Jim, we need to change that to consistent with what we operate with, which is 70%. And remember, 70% impervious is better than the other way. Sometimes we get confused. Yeah, that's right.
Less restrictive.
That's right.
Now-
Sometimes it's hard to realize on the percentage of that. As you go up in percentage on the impervious, you're allowing more impervious than you would.
But my question with that was the last three words, for new development.
Yeah,
So you're telling me that if somebody tears down their house or their house gets blown down by a hurricane, is that considered new development? So would they then not be restricted by that? Or would they have the more restrictive number apply to them?
Well, the LDR now is I added that based on the council input last time, but we could certainly say new or redevelopment for that matter.
Just say shall not exceed 70%.
Well, that's what I had before.
Really?
Yeah, it was an input from concern on one of the council members.
From somebody who's not here?
I'm not sure who it was.
I'm just joking.
Council member.
Well, with that in mind though, Jim, is that that's on the commercial and services, is that only for commercial development or is that for residential?
Well, that's for commercial.
That's for commercial.
That's right.
So
That's the commercial category.
Okay, well, then a building that gets blown down.
Well, I was just saying, yours may still be at 60 or...
Yeah, the residential is a different percentage. Right?
Do we have a citizens ad hoc bicycle committee?
Well, the one thing that I'm reminded of is you have a rebuild ordinance that allows you to do the footprint, so you wouldn't have I don't think we need to go back and do redevelopment as well.
Okay, so we can just keep it, we can just cut those last three words.
Yeah.
Okay. But, and I don't know about y'all, but here, I went through it, and here, I don't like the color pink, but there's lots of it here. And these are changes that I had asked for that didn't get put in,
Okay,
so.
okay.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to go through all those, or.
Well, we probably do. I did pick up a couple that on two, maybe one, we go to the ones I did pick up, and let's see, on.
Or you want me just to go through ones I got, and then I'll just
Yeah, that's
assume,
right.
and then the
That
rest
can
of the
be
council
fine.
can do the same?
That can be fine.
Okay, on page 1-4, policy 1.1.11, the city shall encourage, I thought we were going to change it to the city supports the use of renewable energy. In other words, be a little less directive.
Okay.
Let's see here. Well, just a general comment. I know I jumped you about the 45th Space Wing Commander thing. But what you didn't take off was of PAFB. There's no such thing. It's just the 45th Space Wing Commander, period. Not of PAFB.
Oh,
Because the 45th Space Wing is Patrick and lots of other places.
Oh, okay, okay.
Okay.
And so I don't need the PFAB on.
Yeah, just take all that out. On 1.8, policy 1.10.1, we had discussed the fact that which primarily serves the needs of the residents of Satellite Beach was a bit subjective. I was suggesting the city will encourage all legal and morally sound business, period. In other words, who's going to make the judgment on what business primarily serve the needs of the residents of Satellite Beach? Now, we can make a judgment if it's legal, right?
Right.
You know, I guess we can make a judgment if it's morally sound.
Give me the language again.
The city will encourage all legal and morally sound business, period.
Jim, who defines morally sound?
Yeah, that's the only issue.
Yeah.
Because I know that is...
I know when I see it.
Yeah, Supreme Court, I know. That might not be...
How about legal range?
Well, There's a lot of legal businesses.
that we don't want. That's why I said more like something.
Yeah.
I guess I remember this coming back now, but our concern was not just limiting for the needs of the residents.
Well, yeah, not just, well, no, I mean, the issue was the subjectivity of the term, of the phrase, which primarily served the needs of the residents of Satellite Beach. Who makes that determination? In other words, if a gun shop comes in here, some residents would say, that doesn't serve our needs. Other folks would say, you bet it does.
Well, and I would say your zoning regulations would govern what would serve the needs based on.
Okay, so why don't we say the city will encourage business in accordance with existing zoning regulations?
Not existent.
All right.
And it would be land, I hate to put it to you, but it'd be land development regulations.
Yeah.
Okay, well, the next.
But I mean, something more. Again, I'm just trying to get the subjectivity out of it.
No, yeah, okay.
As much as possible.
Why don't you say the city
will encourage businesses as provided in its adopted land development regulations.
Okay, good.
Is provided and allowed.
Is provided and allowed. Okay.
In its adopted land development regulations.
That's great. Cool. Okay, on the...
Let me make sure I get this in and dump it, it'll be yours. Okay, I'm good.
On, I guess it's page 19, there's no number, but it's this diagram?
Yeah.
Okay. On the
farthest land use map series?
Yes, on the farthest north area there, RLA throughout HUD, it says.
Right.
Are we restricting ourselves by making it RLA? I mean, should we make it more general? In other words, we're trying to get that land developed. Do we want to restrict ourselves?
Well, right now, that is the current, and we have not advertised to change the map area, and we really don't want to change that RLA now until they support our military compatibility land use policy. Then the next step is to talk to both the owners and Patrick Air Force Base in terms of...
I just don't want to try to... I just don't want to limit ourselves.
No, you're not.
But if that's the plan, that's great.
But remember, what we're doing here is that's the current future land use series, and we'll leave it at that point.
Okay, cool.
Good question, though.
2.2, policy 1.3.4. Do we have a citizens ad hoc, somebody just asked that.
Well,
do we have a citizens ad hoc bicycle pedestrian committee?
We did have. Another city, it was Sunset.
Right. So if we don't, why is it in here? And is it realistic to have these bike trails passing within 500 feet of 90% of the residences in the city?
My suggestion is on that you end up stopping that and taking that percentage off.
Why don't we just take off as well as the city will implement and improve upon as resources permit development.
What page is that again?
2-2.
Right.
1, 3, 4.
So just strike the recommendations of the Citizens Ad Hoc Bicycle Pedestrian Committee 4. And it would just say as resources permit development of a network of recreation trails connecting significant destinations in the city, period. And take the rest of that off.
2-2.
Right.
Policy 1.34.
Want me to read it to you again?
Yeah, read one more time.
The city will implement and improve upon as resources permit as resources permit the development of a network of recreation trails connecting the significant destinations in the city, period. So you would strike the recommendations of the Citizens Ad Hoc Committee and passing within 500 feet.
Right,
okay. Blah, blah, blah.
Fine.
Okay. Okay. 3-2 policy 1.4.7. I question, I'm sorry?
3-.
3-2?
Right.
Policy 1.4.7.
Okay.
I question the requirement to even have this in this document. I mean, we've got other agencies throughout the city and county that do this sort of work. Why do we need to reflect it here?
That's an existing policy. That was an existing policy, as I said last time, that was based on trying to make sure that we were consistent with affordable housing, believe it or not, and that was why that was placed in there. Now, if we took it out now, I'm not sure that we would have a problem with it. It was an educational aspect to do that, but that was the reason it was.
Just seems kind of Agenda 21-ish to me.
Well, without being too revealing on it, it is.
Okay, good. Then I'd like to see more.
If you like that.
You say that
now
affordable housing will not be affected by taking that, or?
Well, at the time, it was one of our affordable housing policies that allowed us to be able to do that without doing some other things, without being more restrictive on ourselves than could be. I doubt if you took this out now in terms of job training, we would have a problem, but we'll have some comments if we do.
Okay? Okay. Okay, 3.3.
Okay.
All of those, the city will, the city shall, 1.7.2.
Right.
1.8, 1.8.1, and 1.8.3. Seems to me we're being a bit restrictive. Can we change shall to may, or will to may? So in other words, the city may promote hardening of commercial and residential structures rather than will promote. Because what I don't want to do is I don't want to restrict the city. I don't want to tie the city into something that we're not signed up, we don't have the money to do, nor do we have the capability to do. By saying we will promote hardening of commercial and residential structures, that sounds good, but somebody could come in and say, hey, you say in your plan that you will do that. Come on, cough up some bucks.
The only aspect of where it might be better rather than reversing completely on all these is maybe use the word shall encourage, where we are doing that on 1.81.
That's fine. As long as you don't think that we could be hamstrung by that.
No, I don't, because you're putting yourself in the aspect of encouraging somebody to do something, but not in a hard way.
Not
Yes.
If I could make a comment. One of the purposes of regulations is to delegate authority, all right, to a level where it's most effective. In other words, if someone comes to the city to build a building, all right, they're going to go to you, right, and they're going to say, here's my plans, here's what I want to do. And you're going to say, let me show you what this says, all right? Now, if everything complies, then there's no problem. But if there's a problem with compliance, all right, and they need a waiver for that compliance, then wouldn't they come to the council for that waiver or through the PZAB?
Depends on what kind of waiver we're referring to. We're talking about the Florida Building Code, which is...
No. I mean, a waiver to what's in here.
You're supposed to be consistent with the comp plan itself.
Right.
Now,
But if somebody wants to step away, go outside of what's in the comp plan, what's the waiver authority? Is there any way for them to request an exception to the comp plan?
To ask for a revision of the comp plan policy.
So you have to actually revise the plan, you can't grant a waiver to it?
That is correct. But that is why we put shall encourage, or we do these kinds of things. That's right.
To make it as binding?
No, it's least restrictive as possible.
Less restrictive.
When you say you will, that's much more restrictive than saying
shall encourage.
Well, I agree. But if you had language in the plan that allowed for a relaxation of a particular requirement, in other words, where it says the city will, as resources and opportunities allow, provide emergency power to its critical facilities to support post-storm recovery, all right? Let's say that the city doesn't have the resources to do that, okay?
We should change wills to may.
Then may does fit.
Well, on what we're saying in 17.2, you either say may promote hardening or you shall encourage, either.
I think may promote is better.
May promote on 172? Okay. And then 1.8.
But then who does it leave the decision up to? Does it leave it up to?
Let me go back one step. To put it in context, the comp plan is basically the Constitution, and you're not supposed to be able to amend the Constitution other than going through whatever the formal procedures are to do that. The land development regulations, just to use that as the most common example, is they're adopted to implement the comp plan. And the idea being that if there's a problem, then if you need to get a variance or whatever it is, you go through that process to get to that point. The idea is that the comp plan sets the outer limits where council has decided that we don't want things to go past that. And the land development regulations then, for lack of a better way, is like the statutes, our statutes to implement our Constitution. That's basically the way it is. So it's not supposed to be easy to get around the comp plan. And from a practical standpoint, not that there aren't hard and fast rules in the comp plan, but a lot of the comp plan are just what we're talking about. Will encourage, may encourage, shall encourage. One of the hard and fast ones is the future land use map. That usually sets out something that this is what council hard and fast doesn't want the land use to be different in, and then, like I said, the LDRs basically implement those up to that hard and fast line.
And in combination with that, the state chapter 163, you'll hear us refer to that, has got certain requirements that you have to do. So you always follow that balancing line between what gives us flexibility so that we're not enforcing something that would be a detriment to somebody from an economic standpoint or that sort of thing, yet still falling within the realm of the state law. That's why when I answered the question about the GED aspect, once upon a time, that was our answer to being able to not just say everybody will have affordable housing and do that as a policy. Now, if you look back and say, well, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense of why that's in there. And now, from an historical standpoint, it served its purpose at the time.
I guess, so changing the language from shall, will to may, what impact does that have on the...
That makes it not mandatory that somebody does something. I'm suggesting to you, for example, if somebody were to come to John or whatever, we have it in the policy, we strongly encourage, he may see the leadership in energy and environmental design would be a way to go, but that's an option somebody has. Mm-hmm. And that's all it is.
Right. The city's not telling him he has to. Now, an LDR may direct him.
The LDR in his building code will tell him exactly what he'll have to do. Okay. So it's not like somebody that's willy-nilly, needs to do that. So I think we got the mays and the shall encourage.
Okay. On 4-4, a couple of them, this is just a question. I know we discussed it, but I don't remember seeing the answer. Right. Did we identify the location of a stormwater master plan? I mean, does that exist? Because we discussed it multiple times in here.
We did. I thought you...
And I know we discussed it.
I think... Alan is going to try to do a workshop in the future.
To discuss it, right?
Yeah, but...
A quality master plan and a stormwater master plan. I'm aware of those two.
And they do in fact exist?
Yes.
Okay.
And that's where we got some of our capital improvement drainage projects were from your stormwater master plan.
Could we post that plan on the website, on the tree?
And Alan does want to do a workshop coming up in November on that too, so we're looking at that.
Okay. Yeah, it'd be good to get it posted out there, that way folks are prepared.
Okay, starting at 5.1, we just start to discuss the whole slosh model concept. And my issue, and I've got it a couple things through here, the slosh model, that's something that changes, right? I mean, that changes with hurricanes and different
Right.
sizes of hurricanes and direction. And
You have an actual map that allowed us to, in fact, that's part of these amendments, if you'll remember me saying, you remember it took some of the coastal high hazard area, moved it back, so that, and that was based on the East Central Planning Council's map, so that's what that is.
Okay. Okay, on 5-2, objective 1.3.
Yes, and I think we talked about we'll continue to limit use of funds and discourage funds.
Yeah, but the issue there too, as I recall, was, does this match the CRA plan? Because remember we discussed the fact that we need the CRA plan to match.
You're not in jeopardy because basically the CRA was removed from the coastal high hazard area.
No.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
Except for the water area it is.
On the coast?
I think, doesn't the coastal high hazard area extend over the east side of A1A?
No, not in that area. Your CRA area is not in this.
Okay, because I don't think that's right, but I've been known to be wrong before. Is there some way we can just double check that?
Sure.
Mr. LaRue?
Sure.
And I'll be interested to hear public comment. Objective 1.4A on page 5-3, the whole thing, again, to me, kind of reeks of Agenda 21. We're telling people where they can build and where they can't. Let's let the free market do that. If people want to build their house on the water and they want to pay $1 gajillion in insurance, then have at it. But I don't think government should be telling people where they can and can't build. To me, that's an Agenda 20. That's government getting in people's chili.
Well, the difficulty you have is there is a coastal high hazard state requirements that are talking about minimizing at least exposure in terms of the coastal high hazard area.
Yeah, but we don't have to say as a city that we want to get into that, do we?
Well, that is an existing 1.4A is existing, and we've added a little bit to that, but that's an existing policy where you had talked about aimed at reducing or eliminating the exposure of property, et cetera, to natural hazards.
Yeah, and then we go on to say and rebuilt public and private property subsequent natural. We're again. To me, we're limiting people's ability to enjoy their property as individuals. The government is telling them they can't enjoy their property as individuals. And to me, that's a fundamental issue.
On 5.4, we were trying very desperately to not do that in the sense the policy is not intended. This is 1.4C3.
Right.
This
Yeah, I
policy
like
is
that
not
one.
intended to bring.
I like that one.
Oh, good.
What I didn't like was 1.4A.
1.4A. Okay. And it's difficult for me to know how the reaction will be if we eliminate all those existing policies you had in terms of let's look at this, would be the best way to minimize it without causing this to be inconsistent with the state law on it.
Do you have any idea, Mr. Beadle? How we can do that?
I don't know, because I don't know, there are state statutes on this, and I don't recall what the state statutes are specifically regarding these types of things. I know that there's a state policy, or at least there has been a policy in the past regarding these issues.
Well,
and the other thing is I haven't looked at 163 specifically as far as the litany of things that have to be in there as to whether this kind of stuff has to be in there or not.
Then why don't we say this, just to make sure the city's not being more restrictive? Why don't we just say the city will abide by by applicable Florida statutes in this regard, and just leave it at that?
You have to be a little more specific than that. Just trying to think of a way to be able to
I'll ask a basic question. Is that something council as a whole wants in there?
Well, I'm trying to see like example today, what items are built in the coastal high hazard area? What structures are in there? And it changes with the slosh. Is that correct?
Right. But it's,
Or the slosh
much more limited than we were before in the coastal high hazard area.
Mr. Lure, why do we have to be, why do we have to be more restrictive than what state law requires?
No, I didn't mean you had to be more restrictive than state law, but you had to be more specific than just say you comply with state law on the coastal high hazard area.
To what extent? Like
Well,
do we have
like
to
we
note
did on
the
the
state
other,
law?
like we did on the others. See, these are existing policies. It's, I hadn't really approached trying to change these out. The ones that we did change out, of course, were the ones on the next page on 5.4.
Well, can we just make that, because it seems to me that wording could be very similar, no?
Well, is under objective 1.4A is the difficulty of more or less maintaining the post-disaster redevelopment plan? Is that part of the difficulty in it, or?
Well, the city will strive to minimize the potential for future damage to structures. Well, if it's the city structure, yeah, but if it's private structures, city has no business doing that.
Well,
so it's the very first part. The city will strive to minimize the potential for future damage to structures.
Right. Maybe that objective can go away, and we can deal with putting some of these policies in on one of the other objectives. Because that seems to be, you don't have a problem with the 1.4A2, do you, in terms of the, again, existing policy talking about the non-residential structures, that if they sustain damage in excess of 67%.
Yeah. Actually, I did.
Okay.
And I have a problem with that, too.
Okay.
I mean, we lost a couple of businesses in Satellite Beach simply because of this one paragraph.
We also lost some residents.
Right.
Again, maybe we need to workshop this again, but I think we need to take a broad look at this document from and I understand that the military issue, and we need to talk about how we would get around that, but we need to take a broad look at this document and apply the rule of limited government to it and get the government out of folks' lives. I mean, it is a personal decision whether or not somebody builds their house someplace that is going to have a high potential for damage. It's not the city. Now, if that house is built in such a way that it's going to cause a problem, you know, some sort of a safety issue, then that's another thing.
Right.
But if all it is we're trying to minimize the potential for future damage to structures, that's not our business.
Well, and you're dealing with a complete comprehensive plan as far as wanting to go back and change and revise all of those policies rather than what this started out to be, which was
in terms of some of the new.
And that's why, and I know that, that's why I've just targeted these specific paragraphs, because I think it's probably too difficult to go back and do that.
Yeah.
But I would like to see at least these specific ones either eliminated or reworded.
Well, then maybe what we suggested to do would be to transmit the military policies as the comp plan amendments in the ordinance, and then come back to the comp plan itself and rework that.
Okay.
Jim, when was the last time the CPAB looked at like a total revision?
This was in January, was the last time. We actually have been trying to take these revisions, which were based on the changes in state law. And one of the other concerns is that the new coastal high hazard map, which removes many of the areas in the residential. You remember that's when we had a tremendous amount of people coming, et cetera. Part of what is in this package and the revision is that new map. And basically we're sitting with an existing map, because people are correct. When you look at the map now, today, the map is showing these areas in the coastal high hazard area, but not in the new map. That's the point I was trying to make earlier that I wasn't able to.
What is our commitment is to at least transmit military?
I would say that would be the very least that we would do, would be that. And based on the way the ordinance is read tonight, that part is in the ordinance, so that we can basically transmit the military policies.
And then when can we transmit, when can we amend again?
Well, you have no longer any time frame for changing. If you'll bear with me to be able to come back with you with the revisions, we can come back again with another. Maybe we should go a little bit further to make sure I haven't missed any that you do want in this, and we can come back again with some. Now, do you want me to send it back to the CPAB as well, or do you want to just deal with it as a policy?
And that's what I was, being challenged with. I think the CPAB, maybe with direction from the council, will have to look at it. Because they have worked on this, and they have. I don't know how.
Well, in fairness,
a lot of the things that
they came to you with existing policies and changes and revisions. So.
Yeah, and again, all of these pink things are things that I put in that didn't get done.
Right.
So it may be better. The CPAP's already had a cut at it. Why don't we just take a cut at it?
What Jim says, did they take a cut at existing policies, though? They have not.
Well, no, not as much. Our direction at the time, if you'll remember, was trying to meet the state law with the new requirements and the coastal high hazard, and then we started making some changes that were accommodating, et cetera, and then it got kind of held up a little bit.
I think we should send it. There are some excellent people on that would like to review this. I would think in that context.
I probably want to make sure I get the full direction of the council first, so that I'm not. I think I hear you on the policies on the coastal high hazard. At least we can make an attempt to try to. Now, you did indicate that the policies on 5.4 were a little bit more palatable.
Yeah.
The 1.4C3, et cetera.
Yeah, and you've taken out all of that stuff there on 1.4C, and yeah, that was good, and 1.4C3. My next issue, and again, it's probably best way people pop in if you have some.
No, go ahead. And then, they have others.
Okay, page 5-6.
Okay.
1.6.2. The city, again, if somebody wants to plant something in their yard, and it's going to die, that's their business.
Right.
I mean, so I would almost strike that. I would strike that whole paragraph.
Even though it's only will encourage.
Yeah, because I don't think government has any business encouraging people to plant certain items if they want to plant something else. It's just me.
Anyone else feel the same way on that?
Plant species.
Well, if I want to put a blueberry plant in, you know,
Well, was this talking about invasive plants? Like, like
Doesn't
pepper
talk
tree
about
doesn't?
invasive.
If it did, I would agree with it.
Okay,
But it doesn't.
is there someplace else that talks, because we don't want people just planting evasives.
Yeah, I
you know,
thought I saw there
invasive
is natural functions and the 1.63, the city will protect from development and inappropriate
Yeah.
alteration. That's that one.
1.6.1 on the forest.
Okay.
And then I think on the
Yeah,
previous
plant
page,
species
we'll
within the
prohibit.
city.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's taken care of there.
Yeah, those are all existing policies.
So
Do I hear the majority saying that you don't want policy 162?
163 is,
Okay.
biologically significant native habitat.
I think that's xeriscaping.
Before I forget, do you remember last time that we talked about the city's planning and zoning board and are there successor boards designated by the city? Do you remember that at all? That is one thing I failed to correct that I did correct. I've got these with.
Yeah, I've got that somewhere.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it's on 2.3, the city's planning and zoning board or successor board is designated by city council. Do you remember you asked me to do that? I did. Might as well at least give credit for a couple I did.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And you changed a lot, it just,
Yeah, our successor board. I didn't hear some of those as the direction of all of them, but I hear you.
Again, on 5.6, policy 1.6.6, if the city contains no significant wildlife habitat on privately owned parcels of land, then why do we need this paragraph at all?
Well, at the time you needed it, and I'm not sure you should take it out for the environmental aspects of.
Right, and I agree, because there are yards in this city that are significant wildlife habitat, all right, to various species.
But then we need to change that first line, because it says that we contain none.
Well, I agree. Because, I mean, if for those of you who have visited Scotty Culp's house, for example, you walk down her driveway, and there's blue jays, brown thrashers, cardinals, squirrel, a lot of different types of wildlife that come into that habitat because of the unique flora that grows there.
So maybe we can strike that first line and the paragraph remains.
You could. I think it was an explanatory to make sure that you weren't having a particular area that was a conservation area. But yeah, we can't.
Habitat is habitat.
Well said.
Has nothing to
That
do with
statement, taking out that
conservation.
statement doesn't hurt you in the policy.
Okay, my next thing is on 5.10.
Wait a minute, what did we resolve on that, Jim? We're not-
I'm just taking out the first sentence is all I'm going to do.
First statement.
First sentence.
Yeah.
5-10, it gets back to the slosh model changing concept.
Yeah, those we will work to be consistent with the 163. The only thing is,
Objective 1.12a gets back to the whole issue on people should be able to develop wherever they want to, or redevelop after a storm. And this is even more restricted. It says within the city, development and redevelopment within the city will be permitted only when consistent with sound planning practices that will protect life and property from the effects of coastal erosion, flooding, sea level rise, or damage to environmental systems. I can see damage to environmental systems, but if somebody wants to build their house and it falls down, that's up to them. City has
the policy
in
following
any
that,
state can only go so far.
the policy following that is following state law, is saying what the coastal high hazard area is. And then,
Yeah, and
that would remain.
right, that would have to remain, I take it.
Yeah, it would. And you're
And the next
concerned
one too,
about the
probably.
next one too?
Yeah.
Yeah, would stay. Yeah, because.
Well,
it's
that's
identified.
explanatory to A.1. So,
It really further explains the policy in front of it. Okay.
Let me just say something. I know where you're coming from the libertarian point of view and the no, but what's wrong with the city saying that you shouldn't build in a place that you're going to get killed? I mean, I think that that's probably a good statement. And I think it makes sense that the city is looking out for its people.
does government need to do that? Does government need to tell you, don't do something that you...
Well, well,
Nothing like
government,
that.
no, but government does tell you some things. I mean, government, and it does put up lights, stop signs, speed limits. They do things to protect you. This is something that protects you. And that might have been the philosophy of why we put that in there. I'm saying that you should protect yourself, and I know where you're coming from.
Protect yourself.
You should protect yourself.
That's how America was built.
Well, I understand that, but there are still government, the government gets involved in items that restrict things.
When it's going to affect other people.
I know, but this just says, and consistent with sound planning practices that will protect life and property from the effects of coastal erosion, flooding, sea level rise, or damage to environmental systems. Is that?
The damage to environmental systems I concur with. I think government does have a place in ensuring that our environmental systems aren't damaged by people, but I don't think the city has a place in telling people that they have to build somewhere where their house won't fall down. That's just me.
And you know that, and that's, and on your, in that political thinking, that's why I think this needs to go back to CPAB, only, and then come to us on what their political thinking is. You know, I understand that, but I'm not sure that it's all libertarian.
Going back to them anyway, right?
Yeah, I mean, and it may be right, and I do kind of agree with you, but I don't know if I agree that much.
The difficulty with this state law on the coastal high hazard and the impacts from that is that you follow a kind of a fine balancing line where you're supposed to discourage from that aspect, you know, and that's it's difficult.
Let me ask a question on that then. I think the thing that Greg is having an issue with is that it says that development and redevelopment within the city will be permitted only when.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that, I think, is what his issue is.
Yeah.
What if you took the word only out?
Well, it's who's making the sound planning practices also.
Yeah.
That's an issue.
Yeah.
Is John doing that? Is the builder doing that?
But there's lots of people that-
Or what about doing it the other way and using the word that Jim used, was to have it something to the effect that it'll be discouraged in that area?
Discouraged,
As opposed
but
to
not-
only
Right.
permitted
Development and
only.
redevelopment within the city will be discouraged.
I mean, I don't know how else to word the rest of the sentence, but
Yeah.
change the tenor of the sentence.
Discouraged connoting not disallow.
Yes.
Well, I can live with that.
Okay, and then somehow
Let CPAB try and come up with.
and somehow work the consistent.
I'm not.
Yeah.
No, yeah, that's fine. It's all about compromise. 10% to 7%, that was compromise.
I can see how the budget was done now, yeah.
And that's how we got to 7%, Mr. LaRue.
Oh, no, I'm feeling it, yeah.
Hey, Jim, I think we are probably leveled off up here.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm actually done. Actually, and we are going to bring back the CPAB. However, we are going to transmit the military portion of this. And it is only fair that people have stayed an hour,
Yes, absolutely.
that people have comments. So we're going to do that. Pat, we'll do residents first. And then
I'd like to suggest that the subject that you're talking about is more suitable for a workshop.
Yes.
I don't know how many people out here know what the hell you're talking about, other than generalities, and you're tying up all of our time. You're talking about something that we shouldn't be involved in, other than, Mr. Milburn, I think you're absolutely, totally, 100% wrong when you're talking about being able to build anything, any place you want. As an example, drive into southern Merritt Island sometime and look at Angel City.
He can't. Thank you, Don. Thank you. Mr. Hinton, sir.
Charles Hinton, MSA. What I heard come out of this council tonight, I thought was preposterous. I heard said that you should be able to build whatever you want. I heard that you're doing away with all the setbacks. I heard you doing away with the building codes. Whenever you build a house and the house is dangerous and it begins to blow away, somebody's going to call somebody to come and rescue you. To think that a person should be able to build anything he wants to next door, his house blows away, and in the process, my house gets damaged while he blows away. I can't imagine you should say that you'll be able to do anything you want to with your property without regard to the neighbors and the building codes in the city, the safety in the city. What I heard tonight was preposterous.
Just a point there, I don't think I said anything about, sir, I don't think I said anything about not building to code, nor, and please, sir, if you remember, I also said that the government has no place in telling people what to do consistent with public safety. So in other words, public safety is an issue that government should take into consideration.
I heard you say that I think people should have the right to enjoy their property as they want to.
Yes, sir.
Now,
consistent with public safety and code.
Well, you kind of come back and now you backpedal and you modify what you said. I did not hear you. I heard you say that a person should build his house any way he wants to. I didn't hear you say about protecting the neighbors. I didn't hear you say all that. It appeared to me that what you said is a person should be able to enjoy his property and do what he wants to with it. And that was what I heard you say.
Thanks. Ron? Joel, you'll be next, sir. You'll be there.
Roger Goodis, resident, Satellite Beach, in the neighborhood. Has this plan or proposed plan been forwarded to the CRA?
I'm not sure whether they have or not.
I request that council forward this plan in this format at this point or at a later time, since it's going to be worked on, since this affects the CRA residents. And my understanding is, even though it's written in that there's 163 applicable rules, the plan is changing, and I expect the CRA to review this plan to ensure that our rights are kept. For instance, we had the issue not long ago where there was a transfer of building rights. I seem to recall that we discussed it the last time. What was the monetary value taken away for safety? And then we talk in this document, and I can go point by point. I have a worksheet, but 3 minutes will not cut it. I have one area in there where you cannot redevelop with public funds or any government fund. Well, I look at one thing and go, I believe flood insurance is a government funding source. So when it comes time, let's say we have water damage for whatever reason, we can't repair our property because we can't collect that government fund, which is flood insurance. So I really think this document needs a lot of work. Another sentence in there is that the city will continue to purchase beachfront property as funds come available. And yes, I am sensitive about that because I seem to recall a lot of CRA monies went for that. And I can go on, but I'm going to stop right now. I think we need a workshop here and go through it. Thank you very much.
Go.
Joel Sugars, resident. I don't like the word discourage because discouragement means when the government is involved means you can't. Time and time again, government has come down when you use the word discourage, say, we discourage this, therefore we're not going to let you. Okay? So you really have to watch what words you use when it involves government. As far as the plan itself, Mr. Beadle say, this is like the Constitution. Then look at it that way. Our Constitution is specific about what government can't do, not what government can do. So keep this a general document using the ordinances, city ordinances, regulations, and all that to implement. That's what we do in the United States. The Constitution sets down the guidelines. We use laws to implement what the Constitution says. And I think that's the way we need to look at it with this document. Once you start getting specific in a document like this, that's like putting in the U.S. Constitution, you will go to school 7 days a week. Okay, everybody goes to school 7 days a week, because that's what the Constitution says. As soon as you put it in a comprehensive plan, whatever you put in there, that's what we have to do. Okay.
Good evening. Mike Callahan. I'm a Satellite Beach resident. Live right down the street on Cassia. That's kind of when I came here to talk about it. Want to appreciate the work this council's doing, and this is my first council meeting, and hats off to you guys.
Welcome.
That being said, with the job that's going on at Cassia right now, is being one of kind of the bane of my existence is watching the cars flying up and down Cassia, and as we're doing a major work on there, I would like to see it done right. And I was informed that there was at one point a proposal to have some low-level lighting along the tap, and that was struck down because of some budgetary.
Mr. Callahan,
Sir.
I'm sorry. And we are discussing this plan.
I thought you were opening it up to.
I know I was opening discussion on the plan. I'm sorry. Probably, I see your name on here. It's probably going to take you. We'll try and get citizens' comments after our break.
Oh, we're having a break still.
Well, sir.
Again, I appreciate what you're doing. Sure, why not?
Can you?
Yeah.
So, thank you. All right, we're just talking about the plan, sir.
Rich Edgington, 425 Winchester. I'm a member of the board, the PVAB, and I want to come tonight because I have some concerns with the wording, and I want to give you some background. Some of the wording that Mr. Billman brought up, some of that wording does look a little out of place, so why is that in there? I believe that, well, the background on this is that a few years ago, the city commissioned a sea level rise study by Dr. Parkinson. And he did a study, did his findings, presented it here in this room. The CPAB put out some proposals to the then City Council, and which was designated as Ordinance 10 blank blank. It was just, it wasn't an actual proposal, it was a exchange of ideas, more or less. The City Council at that time added some input into that document and sent it back to the CPAB. Getting to how I feel this has come full circle is Dr. Parkinson wrote in his findings on the sea level rise mitigation plan that the tipping point towards catastrophic inundation forecasted by him to occur around 2050. Thus, the city has about 40 years to formulate a plan. As an initial step, the Comprehensive Planning Advisory Board, a volunteer citizen committee serving as the city's local planning authority, has approved a series of updates and revisions to the city's comprehensive plan. If approved by the City Council, the amendments will provide a legal basis for implementing an adaptive management plan and specific actions designed to mitigate the city's risk from sea level rise. If we go to, if we go to objective 1.12A that Mr. Billman was talking about, that's on page 5-10. I believe that these three objectives and policies that are in red here are new policies to the comprehensive plan. The 1.12A, the development and redevelopment within the city will protect life, property, and effects from coastal erosion, flooding, sea level rise. This is a new term being introduced into the comprehensive plan. And then they give you the definitions of the coastal high hazard area, which, as we know, changes from time to time. And then they give you the definition of an adaptation area, and also use the word sea level rise in this policy. So now we have definitions and we have an objective that I feel come right from the work of Dr. Parkinson relating to sea level rise. So some of these policies have been changed and added, I feel, to affect the people who live in the CHHA, the coastal high hazard area. If you go to...
Rich, your 3 minutes are up.
3 minutes are up?
Yes, sir.
Would anybody see me the 3 minutes? No? You can't do that? Well, I would advise that the council look at also page 5-2 and send this back to the CPAB.
Nice seeing you again, Rich. I haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah, later.
Oh, hope you're doing right. No, Dick, Don.
Don McClendon, resident. I think it was back in April, sometime, I forget the date, but Mr. LaRue's firm put all the properties west of South Patrick into the coastal high hazard zone using outdated maps. I researched that, found more up-to-date maps that showed that we were indeed not in a coastal high hazard area, and I had a citizen read my letter and my notes to present council with that. So that was changed. And then I don't know if it was OSHA or NOAA, which organization handled it. I guess they did their study, and it even reduced more, as you mentioned. There's a lot that I'm going to try to remember here that was said here in the last 45 minutes or so. But I wear hearing aids also, like the gentleman back here. And Councilman Billman, I do recall you saying what you said without adding the caveat of building codes. But I understood, yes, you can build, but your home will have to apply to Dade County regulations of when you're are up-to-date standards. I understood what you were saying. I understood, too, how the building process works. As far as properties east of A1A, residential or commercial only, there was a great property that was always in the newspaper every time we had a nor'easter or a hurricane. That was on Shell Street. Finally, the swimming pool fell in and all. And in that, I agree with Mr. Billman. If you want to build a house right there and you want to comply by state and federal and local regulations as far as revetments or rebutment, have at it. But if it falls in the ground, if it falls in the ocean, don't come to us helping you, wanting us to rebuild that for you. As far as using your land as you wish, fine, as long as it conforms to our local building codes and our LDRs and our ordinances. I know some of those ordinances we don't want, and we talked about the issue of moral came in here. Well, it depends, morals are wherever you stand. It's like if somebody can afford to build a giant house on the ocean, have at it. But the moral thing, I don't think that should be in there at all. Although because we already have prohibition of a strip club, gun range, I think is boat storage now. Those items are already in our plan. Doesn't necessarily fill the comp plan, but I'll see where citizens are coming from, and I see where council's coming from. It's a complex and it should go back to a workshop. Thank you.
Thank you. Vic?
Dick Bringart, former long-term resident, now non-resident, future resident. I'd like to direct your attention to Section 4, Page 2 of Ordinance 1059. And I'd like to apologize to the clerk because I'm not as good a speaker as most people here. And I know I can't read because I went to school in the 3rd grade in the hills of Virginia. But this says that all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict are, and the same are, hereby repealed. Now, I knocked out that and knocked out and the same are. I would say all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict are hereby repealed. And I, being of lower intellectual value, would be able to understand that. Now, I had the privilege of being on the Brevard County Planning and Zoning Board in the local planning agency. I absolutely love comprehensive plans, future land use elements, and I love digging into these things for this reason. One of my forefathers said, "Give me liberty or give me death." Now, that forefather of mine, also one of my forefathers, my cousin is Thomas Jefferson. Now, when I sat on the Brevard County Planning and Zoning Board in the local planning agency, I just had a ball keeping people from trying to take away my rights at the Brevard County level. And I do believe that any time someone in a liberal bent attempts to take away my rights, I'm going to stand up and be counted. And I would like to say that this ordinance 1059 probably needs a little rework.
Thank you.
Ada Billman, resident. I agree. I think language is extremely important in this document. I think it's not very easy to understand if you're just a layperson. So to me, we need to mean what we say and say what we mean. It needs to take the subjectivity out of it, because I think in the past maybe it has been used as a hammer against citizens as opposed to more like guidelines or parameters that they need to follow. But it should be helpful to them. It should be something that if you're looking, you want to develop something or you want whatever you want to do, I as an average person should be able to pick up my comprehensive plan can and read through it and see if I'm able to do it. And when I read through that document, there's always questions. I take this to mean that, someone else means that. When we leave things very subjective, like you said, what is a need to me might not be a need to you. And if we're not very specific with it, I think that creates problems. And I think that's where you get people unhappy. I also think that we need to take away a lot of, it's very negative. You can't do this. The government controls this. This is what we say. That's what we do. As opposed to positive and saying, these are the things, or these are your guidelines or parameters, and this is what it can happen. So that's just what I would like. I'd like to be able to understand it.
Thank you. I'm just going to bring it back here. This is what I think we should do. And my recommendation, Jim, we'll go with the military, and then I think, Ann, we should have a joint workshop with the CPABs and us. This way, they don't go through the program, and then we say, then we'll change, and then we'll just sit around the table and put it all out on the table.
What are the chances of writing it like Mr. Sugar suggested?
That was
Write
a great
it
idea.
I tell you, I like that idea. I mean, if you were going to totally revamp something,
Yeah.
all right,
Well, the Constitution does have some, you can't, a 3-year-old can't vote.
okay.
Okay, I mean, there are some things written into the Constitution that are restricted.
Right.
So, and even though you have a Bill of Rights and everything, you know,
It's
you
an
need a search
interesting-
warrant to get into a house.
It's an interesting approach.
I mean, there are, but there are some things that restrict and give government.
Exactly. But if we took just 50% of what Mr. Sugar said, this would be a trend-setting document.
Oh, okay. Well, we're going to rewrite the Constitution in a joint workshop. Jim, can I have like a motion on the council to transmit the military portion of it and then meet in a joint workshop?
I'd like to make a motion to transmit the military portion of the comprehensive plan.
You need to approve on first reading,
Oh,
as it relates to only the military portion of the plan.
Okay.
Because you have to approve the ordinance on first reading.
Yes. So what do you recommend?
You're going to transmit the military, but you need to approve the first reading for the ordinance.
To do that. Oh, good.
Because that's part of it.
Jim, when do they need the military?
Well, you'll be able to do that by being able to approve it on the first reading. I can transmit it because it's part of the comp plan amendments. You can do it tonight.
Actually, I guess from the title standpoint, they're deleting the to revise and update the existing GOP in accordance with, is that what they're getting rid of that, or is the military part of that too?
Military is part of that, Steve. So I looked at that. We're okay.
So you think the ordinance as written?
I think the ordinance is written is
And just say
okay
that
because
it's
the
limited-
Exhibit A will now be the military policy.
Just the, the Exhibit A will only be the military policy now.
Okay.
We had to be thinking on our feet on this, but that does work. That's why.
Okay, so let's have a motion to approve ordinance number 1059.
With Exhibit A being limited to the military.
Military amendments.
As stated.
Second motion.
Okay, Lenore, I have a motion by Councilman Billman, second by Vice Mayor Rhodes. He made the motion.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought it was Frank.
I started.
You're adjusting it for him.
I think he was trumped.
Trumped.
Councilman Frank.
Yes.
Councilman Rhodes.
Yes.
Councilman Billman.
Yes.
Mayor Condon.
Yes, and that motion does pass unanimously. Thank you, Jim, for spending the evening with us. I am going to break it till 9, which is 10 minutes. Sorry, Mike, when we come back, we'll have citizens' comments. Okay. Welcome everyone back. I'm sorry, thank you. I did hear Amy Nietzsche talking about school board. She says our meetings used to be this, are they still this long?
No, we're, I'm just laughing, thinking, I'll be in about 3 minutes already.
Thanks, Amy, thanks. All right, I'm going to skip agenda item number 6 right now and go to agenda item number 7, citizens' comments. Mr. Hinton is not here. Dana? If Mr. Hinton comes in, I will let him speak.
Dana Billman, citizen. I was just giving you an update on the Beachcaster. We took the final product over to the printer today, so he will have the proofs. They're going to do the formatting, the laying out, and everything like that, and get it. And we gave him a few things that we wanted added, and then he'll have that to us probably like on the 7th, which is Friday. Pat Sams and Carol Robichek will be doing the final proof on that and giving him the okay on Friday, and then it'll go to the printer, and then it'll go to the mail house, and et cetera, et cetera. The decision was made that we took the number of households that we needed to mail it to. We actually ordered 100 extra so that we have some for various reasons, or new people coming in, or for whatever reason, I'm not sure. But anyway, we have 100 extra. The reminder that if anybody wants their expanded article onto the website, you send that to Lenore, and she's asking for that to come like the 7th. So if you have that information, so you can just take your article that you submitted and you can expand it to the 300 words if you'd like.
Will Carol be back to proceed?
Carol comes back. She'll be here Friday.
Okay. All right.
When will it hit the mailboxes?
The plan is by the 15th of September. So it'll be it takes them, by the time they do the layout and everything, that's usually 3 days or so. It should be pretty well good to go, because Pat and I sat with the gentleman at Flamingo Printing today, went through our stuff, so I'm not expecting the mock that he gives us back as the final that will do the proof. We'll forward it to the city manager for her look, and then Pat and Carol will give it the okay. Then that's when they'll start it. The printing will take probably another 3 days or so, so that'll be next week. Then it goes to the people who will be doing the collating and getting it ready for the mailing, and then we'll drop it, and it'll be bulk mail.
Be great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for your help. Thanks for your work. Thank everyone on the committee. I do not see Dee here.
Actually, she did work.
Okay. Once it's read into the minutes. My name is Dee Anderson. I'm a Satellite Beach resident since 1970. The issue of interviewing and employing a new city manager should be done after the November 6th election to avoid any suggestion of cronyism, unfair partiality, or conflicts of interest. 3 members of this council are up for election. The prudent choice would be to let the newly elected council choose their city manager, since they will be working with that individual for the next 4 years. If this present council fails to table the city manager hiring, then they must protest the appointment of Trevor Lowing as a member of the board. This person, who was appointed by a council member who is also running for office as a candidate for mayor, the appearance of a conflict of interest, much less a highly unethical choice, should be looked at very carefully. The members of a citizens board reviewing candidates should be impartial, informed of city operations and the duties and responsibilities that the job entails. I ask to table the issue of city manager, and not that to replace Mr. Lowing as a conflict of interest. Thank you, Dee. We will get the other ones and then possibly go back to that. Michael?
Yes, sir. Yeah, Michael. All right, can we stay here?
No, Mike. That's okay.
Good try. You're not going to make me sit down again, are you? Am I really going to stay this time? What do we get?
Your pledge.
First meeting?
Yeah. Oh, good deal. All right. Yeah, basically what I'm trying to do is, I've been a resident here for about 5 years. Fell in love with the area when I was in the Air Force, came to Satellite Beach, and just said, man, I got to get stationed there. Never happened, so I hit my 20, I came here. Bought my house unseen. The only disadvantage, the only thing I regret is that it's Cassia. There's just, the traffic on it has been my bane for 4 or 5 years. I have tried other means to talk to. I talked with Mr. Potter, I talked to Chief Coate about a year ago, said, what can we do? Can we do something with the signage? Can we, what are our options? And I'm told it's money this, it's money that. Now we've got this project going on. If we can do this, do this project right for both, it's aesthetically pleasing, it'll be better utilized, put the lighting there, put some of those poop station bags, because the other thing is people walking their dogs and not picking up after them. A couple poop stations, some better signage on Cassia. Ideally, I like what I see when I hit Riverside right by 192. Hey, if you go 35 here, this is what it's going to cost you. If you're going 40, this is what it's going to cost you. I was told, oh, those signs are too expensive. We can't buy. Really? We can't get one of those for each end of Cassia to say, this is what it costs you when you speed on the street? When we had 14, this is a bike lane sign, so there was 14 bike lane signs between South Patrick and Temple. I counted them. In any case, that's what I was here to ask you for is if while we're doing this project, can we, I heard there was lighting going to be, low-level lighting by the sidewalk at one point was on the table, and then that got scratched for money. I just think it's being penny wise and pound foolish if we don't, try and make it, you got an opportunity here to make it look decent, and I would certainly appreciate it. I think it would do something for the safety, it would slow traffic down. If we got more and more pedestrians on there, people aren't going to go 35 miles an hour down the street.
Thank you. A byproduct of what you said is the lieutenant is here from the police department, and what they usually do when people complain about speed is they may post maybe one of their motorcycle cops there for a while and look. I didn't think you could do 35 on that street because it's all beat up.
Oh, you'd be surprised. and no, the police, every time I talk to police, I mean, I know it's one of the most patrolled streets in the city, but you know what, it's
when the lights go.
exactly.
Birds are dead. Thank you and welcome. And,
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Good
Again,
being in the Air Force. Thanks, Mike. Stephen Kingston. Don McClendon. Oh, Don. I was looking in the back. I didn't see you.
Can I get a pen?
This is not your first meeting.
You want to sit on the groom side. Don McClendon, President. Actually, the reason I moved up is you read a document very rapidly. I did not hear what you said, but I did hear that it had something to do with the city manager.
I am going to
committee.
discuss it after all citizens' comments.
I want to make that's going to happen.
Yes, we'll do that.
All right. What I really came up here to sign up and speak in general, usually formulate my ideas, knowing this one was going to go later. I just want to, again, say two things. There are several people that approached the podium tonight. So this is my first ever meeting. And we need to hear more and more and more residents say that and get involved. If you don't like what's going on or you don't know what's going on, come to the meetings. If you want to know about the budget, attend a budget. Anybody, any citizen can attend those meetings. They're transparent, and then we're trying to gain more and more transparent. And I'll say hello world to YouTube here, and I just got my facial recognition thing. But anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Don. Vic?
Vic Brungart, non-resident. The recent economic downturn has adversely affected businesses both locally and nationally. Next week, if the Lord's will and the creeks don't rise, am going to sign a letter of intent for 45 jobs that I was going to place in either Satellite Beach, Palm Bay, or Brevard County. Yesterday morning at 9, I was in the Harry Moore and Harriet Moore complex for the third time, defending my honor by a charge by the Satellite Beach Police Chief, Jeff Pearson, who said that I lied on February the 11th, 2012, to a member of the Satellite Beach Police Force. I did not lie. Now, I will defend myself with every penny that I have to my name, and I will sue individually, civilly, and criminally people who falsely accuse me. My honor means a lot. So yesterday, after I got out of the courthouse with Judge Judy Aiken, I said, screw Satellite Beach on the jobs. Today, I was down in Palm Bay, and the place I was looking at had a screwy sign ordinance, and I said, screw Palm Bay. Next week, I'm going to be signing a letter of intent, if the Lord's willing and the creeks don't rise, for 45 jobs that I'm going to bring to Brevard County unincorporated. And I know that well. And I, if the Lord's will and the creeks don't rise, I'm going to be the county commissioner for District 4 after Mary Belen goes out. And I'm going to have a lot of competition, but I'm going to give it my best if the Lord's willing. But I tell you, as a long legacy of Thomas Jefferson down to me, I'm going to defend my honor against somebody falsely accusing me of lying to a Satellite Beach police officer.
That's the end of citizen comments. And I'd like to go back to agenda item number 6, which is a resolution, number 921. Jim, I'll give you a chance to find that.
I got it.
And then I do have this. We'll discuss it at the end.
Resolution number 921, a resolution of the City of Satellite Beach, Brevard County, Florida, vacating and abandoning a portion of the east end of the canal right-of-way depicted along the northern boundary of the replat of Michigan Beach, 5th edition as described herein, providing for conflict and providing for an effective date.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Beadle.
Actually, I did leave that out. It's a replat of part of Michigan Beach in the title. I got it in the content and didn't get it at the title.
Great. Ann? Any comments?
No, I don't think the reams are not here.
The Rems
I'm sorry.
left.
They did? Okay.
Well, basically, this is the resolution that was previously discussed, subject to getting agreement on the language in the easement, which is attached. And Mr. Fujaroos, the Rems attorney, did in fact have them sign it, but the witnesses weren't properly executed, so he just needs to re-execute the agreement. And now the resolution is before council since the easement language was approved, and the effective date of the easement is not until the city receives the drainage easement and the Rems have dismissed the lawsuit.
Jim, before we go on, can I just make a statement? And Lenore, I will ask for your assistance on this. When we made the resolution last time with the property, we talked about an ordinance and a resolution. The next day it came in and Lenore and I kind of discussed it. And she said an ordinance is when you're going to do something permanently. A resolution is when you're going to do something temporarily. This is permanent.
Correct.
Should this be,
let me address that.
Okay.
And we talked about it at the last meeting too, is that that's one of the reasons why the Attorney General suggested that you do it in an ordinance rather than a resolution. However, the Attorney General opinion also did not say that you could not do, or that you were prohibited from doing it as a resolution. And in fact, when counties vacate rights-of-way, the state statute says that they are to do it by resolution and not by ordinance.
And you vacate a right-of-way permanently.
Correct.
Permanently.
The issue is, and this is what Ann and I have talked about, and I'm providing her with a general summary of what I found as far as the local governments in Brevard County are concerned, that I brought up at the last meeting. I told her I would provide her more specifics as to what it is, but if you recall, I said about half of the cities did it by ordinance, and of the ones I found, and the other half did by resolution, but the real issue that needs to be addressed by council is the nature and amount of notice that should be given if council is going to consider doing vacations in the future. This particular resolution is to resolve this litigation. It's been talked about before, and it's up to council as to whether or not they want to require any more notice for it. But to answer your question, that was discussed in the Attorney General opinion, or one of the two Attorney General's opinions that I brought up at the last meeting. They said that there is no requirement by law that says you have to do it one way or the other. They preferred it by ordinance, but the reason they preferred it by ordinance was because of the notice and opportunity to be heard that is included in the ordinance adoption process. So the question is, and that's what I'm going to be giving to Ann, is whether council in the future wants to adopt a policy regarding vacations generally and what the process will be regarding that process.
Okay, so that's in the future. We'll come back to 921.
Yeah, I think by definition, or by virtue of the fact that we've been working this for so long, and we've had so much public discussion on it, I think it virtually gets the same, in fact,
We can
a
do
lot
this
more of the exposure than an ordinance would have gotten.
Yeah, we can do this way.
And I say let's get on with it. And this has been well thought out, it's been well documented, we're allowing a homeowner to actually maintain their own property. I think it's a no-brainer, we should press.
Okay, I need a motion in a second.
Okay, and I make a motion that we adopt Resolution 921 as written with the exception.
With the addition of part of before the word Michigan on the third to the last line of the title.
With the addition of the words part of before the word Michigan in the third line of the title.
Third to the last line.
Third to the last line of the title. Got that, Lenore?
I second that.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilman Billman, second by Councilman French. I'd like to have a public comment on agenda item number 6. Lenore? Bring it back to the board.
Vice Mayor Rose?
Yes.
Councilman French?
Yes.
Councilman Bowman?
Yes.
Mayor Rothman?
Yes, and the resolution passes unanimously. Jim, thank you, and whenever you bring that, then we'll discuss the differences on those in the future. Thank you. All right, I'm up to agenda item number 8, is city council comments. Lloyd?
About the only thing I wanted to report is that they did hold a town hall meeting on the 16th of August. And we held it over across the breezeway here at the Scotty Culp Center. And there was some lively discussion that went on there, including, coincidentally, a discussion of the main topic that we were supposed to cover, which was the rec department. There were some significant pieces of information that came out of there. One was that I was advised that we didn't get the word out very well for the town hall meeting. And a young lady came in, maybe halfway through the town hall meeting, and she goes, "You know how I found out about this? Somebody put it out on Facebook." And I said, "You mean, well, how many people, look at their Facebook?" Right? And she said, "A lot of people do. That's how we found out about this." And so I think that the big takeaway there was that we need to use Facebook if we to get the word out for some of these town hall meetings. And certainly if we want to have more people say, "This is my first time at a city council meeting," getting the information out on Facebook would be a good way to do it. I mean, it's not like we're setting policy or anything like that. We're just passing on information through a very useful and well-known conduit. So, again, I think that town hall meeting is a great way to get information out, but we need to get the information to people that there's going to be that type of forum available to them. So,
work at it. Thank you. Greg?
No, nothing significant to report.
Vice Mayor?
I'm running for council for the November election, trying to retain my seat. And that's it.
Thank you. And I'd like to congratulate everyone who qualified. For mayor, Frank Catino, Trevor Lowing, and for the city council, there's 4 people, and I do everything in alphabetical order. Mark Breimer, Lloyd French, Lorraine Gott, Scott Rhodes. So congratulations to each of you for qualifying. That's great. The only comment, I went to the Florida League of Cities conference, and I will tell you, I went to every meeting I could go to. There is a meeting on 175, 185 money. And what happened is, and we got one of the letters, Naples, Florida did negotiations with their police department, 175 money, did negotiations to do other things with the money besides what the 1999 statutes said. And this is just real quick. And the Attorney General approved it. He almost disallowed. Hollywood, Florida did not negotiate with their police department, but came up with options that they did not, that the union did not agree to, and the Attorney General upheld the city also. So 175, 185 is going to be very hot issues as far as what you can do with those monies. Right now, you're only allowed to put it back in. You can do other stuff. The only other thing I'd like to say is today, celebrity people, not that I'm a celebrity, went to the Alzheimer's Center, Joe's Club, and they went on what's called a virtual dementia tour, where you experience dementia. My mom goes to Joe's Club, but that's not why they asked me. They asked me as the mayor, so I represented the city. It is open the first Wednesday of every month about 3 o'clock, and it's a very moving experience to see what people with dementia go through. And that's what they try to simulate in Europe. And it's going to be the 21st of September is Alzheimer's Day, and the 20th there's going to be a whole section. Took my picture. I got goggles on. I got gloves on. But it was really a very moving experience. So I'm glad I did that. So, and I recommend each of you to do that also if you have somebody, with dementia, Alzheimer's in the family, or want to experience that. So thank you. City Attorney.
I have nothing.
You've had a lot tonight. City Manager report.
Well, you took a little of my thunder in talking about the qualified council and mayoral candidates. That's quite all right. I believe, all council members received the Government in the Sunshine Manual on local boards with regard to holding a meeting in a public place, that a quorum must be physically present, but that members then can Skype in or by phone, then they can vote. So as long as you have a physical quorum present in chambers, then...
You can vote by
yes,
phone.
That is
okay,
correct.
As long as you got 3 here.
Yes.
Okay.
So
four for the CRA.
That would be, whatever the quorum is, correct, and that would be 4 there, right. So you did receive that. If there are any questions, just let us know on that.
Well, my only question to that, Ann, would be then we don't need to modify our city policies to allow that, since it's already allowed by that statute, or by that Attorney General opinion, correct?
I would,
Or should we?
City Attorney?
I don't know yet. What is our policy?
Just to be specific.
Well, I'll double check on the policy, but again, I think that it also says must be made a good determination of the board. I suppose if someone is just missing meetings without
A reason.
yes, then I suppose there could be, you could put a policy, but I just,
Okay.
I don't
We
see
do have
that
a
as
policy. I think
happening.
there is a policy.
Well,
How
I'm
many
not.
you can miss.
Well, but it doesn't.
There is.
It doesn't
Would not-
specify
No.
VTC.
No, it does not. Do
It
you?
doesn't specify technology used to.
Oh, okay.
Well, let me look at that and see if we really need to modify that. And again, I would defer to the city attorney, and maybe we can talk about this to see if we need any, actually to put anything into place if this is already, the Attorney General's office has
Because
spoken on this
I
issue.
think we are going to see more and more, hopefully, if we
Yeah.
have more and more younger people running for council, getting on council, those same people are going to work like I do, like you, like we all do.
True.
And that's the only way we're going to be able to participate in
Right.
government is to use technology to do so.
Right.
So.
So you're correct. You're going to see that more and more, so. We had our Beachcaster update, so we're in good shape there. Also, all statements of financial interests have been filed with the Commission on Ethics for all required boards, committees, and staff, which is a total of 50, as mandated by Florida Statute 112.314.
Thank you, Lenore, for
So that's all
perseverance.
done. How about
You get in a
that?
lot of trouble for not, thank you.
And we did get a thank you letter, which I just want to make a note of, dated September 5th. This is a gentleman who lives out of the area, and he has his parents and his elderly grandmother that live in the city. And he said that within minutes, professionals from the Satellite Beach Fire Department and police departments responded, and my grandmother was transported to the hospital. He said that the parents told him that the response time and professionalism of the respective departments were exemplary, and he just wanted to pass on the gratitude. So I thought I would mention that. It's always nice to hear good things as well. And we also did receive an email. It's basically a volunteer proposal, a very interesting one, from the Satellite High School Air Force Junior ROTC. There's 140 cadets, and they are actually interested in volunteering for some projects in the city. So if anyone has any ideas, any council members, we're also, this was just sent out to our department heads as well, to see, the 140 enthusiastic young people would be great to be involved in certain projects. So if any council members have any ideas, do let me know on that. So, Amy, did you want to give any kind of a report on the screening committee?
Okay, sure, I can.
I was going to do that, but since you're here and you have waited for the entire meeting, go ahead and...
This is your package. Did you want to?
No, I have it.
Okay.
I have that. You got that for me.
Okay, this is a report on the choosing of the city manager.
It's the city manager screening committee. We wanted to, pardon? Yeah, I am the chair.
Of that committee?
And we wanted to make sure that the community understood we are the screening committee, not the selection committee. And that was one of the focuses we had at our first meeting, is that all we're doing is getting the posting information out there, looking at all the applications coming in, and then hopefully whittling them down to about 10 is what we're hoping. Then we get to turn it over to you guys, and you guys take it from there. A couple of issues have come up. Well, first of all, the committee's excited. We've got a lot of good ideas. 2 issues have really come forward that concern me. The first one is the timeline, and I've kind of hit all of you up, except Scott, you came at the end. My concerns on the timeline, which has got the committee stymied. We were under the impression that the council would like to see us get our part done so that you could have the person close to being in place by the election. When Trevor started working backwards on the timeline, and we started looking at what other cities are doing, most cities post for 30 days. So if we truly post for 30 days, allow for that information to come in, I don't see us being able to do this process properly and have it completed, for you guys to have it completed by November 6th. So that was my first question, is can we have some, my understanding is there's 180 days by charter from when the last manager resigns, we get someone in. That gives you till, I think we said December 18th. Right. We know we can get it wrapped up. You guys, we can get everything wrapped up. I don't think we'll be giving you guys enough time to get wrapped up by November 6th. So I see it's about being able to wrap up till after that. And to be real honest, if I was applying for a city manager job, which I wouldn't, you can pay me enough. So what I would say though, that, and I'm looking back to when I went through a superintendent search. We did a superintendent search a couple years ago, and I'm just looking back on those past experiences. Someone is not going to come in and interview with a council or a board and decide until they see who they're going to be working for after the fact. So I really think the kind of candidates you're looking for are going to be hesitant to make a decision prior to the elections. Even though I know you guys don't do your turnover until after that fact, I want to make sure that for Satellite Beach and for all of you that it's a smooth transition. And so if we can have a little flexibility on the timeline, that would be the first request I have. The second is the committee's going to be developing the posting information tomorrow. We need to know what approval process. Do you need to approve it at a meeting before it goes out on the websites to be posted? What type of, that's the other part of this we needed. And so that was really where I was at. Ann and Lenore have been wonderful. The committee's very excited. We just need a little bit more direction because we're kind of at an impasse.
Mayor, may I say one thing? Lenore, you had indicated to me today that with the current council, no one is actually sworn in until, what, the 30th or so of November?
Was last year, so we're really toward the end.
So you could have the
Because
latitude.
of the certification and the ratification
Mhm.
that's
That's
required.
correct.
And it's always the end of November, so it gives you a little bit extra timeline to still be able to review as council those applicants that have come forward with the committee's recommendations.
Right. I'm very nervous about the transition, and like I said, all I have to relate to is when we changed superintendents, and we had a period of time where we didn't have someone or interim and person, and you need to make sure everyone gets started off on the right foot, and since we don't know who the makeup's going to be there, personally, I have some reservations on the timeline of the process, and I just want the council to really think about how they want this to proceed.
I think the thing we were shooting for is, as December 18th is the drop dead date,
Okay.
what do you do before that? And November 6th was never in play, even though that was election day, because then it has to be certified by the supervisor, and then we have to meet and accept, and then we have to have another meeting and unfortunately, our meeting on the 22nd is the day before Thanksgiving, so that might even be rolled to a different time. So it could be the 29th or the 30th, and I don't think anybody,
Well, and as part of the posting,
yeah.
who's going to, I mean, what I'm looking at is, I'm just the screening committee. I guess I'm looking ahead to what you guys will have when we turn that over. Whoever's going to be sitting down and interviewing those people, what's going to happen if you're still interviewing after November 2nd, even though if there's new people, well, there will be.
Yes.
You're going to want to be thinking how those people are going to be sitting on there. I'm concerned about the transition process, and I know I keep saying that. I've lived through it, and it's so important for you to get the quality candidate you want. They're going to want to have a clear understanding of that transition, which is why our posting will have to reflect that. That's why I keep coming back to that. Our posting has to reflect your process too.
The first meeting in December is December 5th.
Okay.
Can you check with your committee tomorrow to see, Dawn is here,
Dawn is here.
possibly when you could get candidate nominations to that meeting on the 5th of December? I mean, you could send out.
I think our goal was to be able to present to you by your second meeting in October.
Well, that is too quick.
Okay.
I mean, you.
Well, just our list of
nominees.
10, just our list of 10, and then you guys take it from there. We're looking at when do you
Think you
want?
can get it by then?
I'll speak when the chair.
Okay. What do you think?
I think the more time, the better,
Yeah,
but-
because, Billman and Deanan will be here, and the other three is up in the air possibly. So we would probably be part of the selection process, but then they're going to talk to us and see the feel for us, but it could be three new faces after the election, and they don't know, I don't know, it's kind of tricky.
Yeah, and see, that's where I want to make sure you get the candidates. I want to make sure the 10 applicants I hand to you to look at are quality candidates, and I'm just looking at what questions are they going to be having in their mind as we're putting together this posting and how it's going, and
May I ask, Ann, your contract is 6 months?
Correct.
What date is that? And
Well, it began June 20th, so it's December 20th.
so it's the
from what I can
same
see.
day. So if we wait to interview on December 3rd and bring someone in like the middle of January, you're going to not have a city manager for a month.
We need to have it.
Right. Plus, you've got to allow, if the person's coming from out of state, they've got to have time to get here. I mean, but the other thing I would say, though, just going through you'd rather wait and get the right person, even if that means you have a period of time, than rush it. I mean, the right person may walk through the door, you have them in place come December, but I just continue to caution the council, don't rush the process. Your city manager can make or break the city.
Oh, we know that. All right, let me get some input. What do you think? I know it's one of those accordions.
Accordion not.
Is to accumulate resumes and
Then we'll take it and see.
yes.
Okay.
I'd like to hear from other people on.
Yeah, I was going to say my committee's here, so I'll turn.
There is a package too that for
Yeah, you guys should all have a package.
It's pretty nice.
It is
Don is
nice.
my vice chair, and the reason Don will be chairing tomorrow, although when we set this meeting, my board stuff's always on Tuesdays, and they usually do last more than 30 minutes. I know I was teasing you guys earlier. We have our final budget hearing tomorrow night, and I had forgotten that. So he's going to be actually running the meeting tomorrow.
Okay, well, you should have that done, Don. Don, did you want to say something on this committee?
First, I apologize for interrupting.
Sorry, no, I did. I thought you were going to come up and say, well, thank you for volunteering to be the chair. I don't know if you volunteered.
During public comments, I mentioned that I heard you read, or vaguely heard you read a letter.
I am going to, I'm
Concerning-
going to defer to the, I'm going to discuss a little bit of it and then defer to the lawyer on one part of it.
Okay, the chair of the committee, I am the vice chair of the committee, as she just indicated. She indicated she had a copy of this letter. I haven't seen this letter.
No, it was submitted as,
No, I had the packet on. He showed me the packet.
I got the packet today, but I didn't see that letter.
No, it's not in there.
that letter is public comment.
Okay.
That was.
All right, by an anonymous, or I guess the public comment, I hope the citizen's name is on there.
I did say it was from.
I haven't seen it, I would like a copy of it tonight, but, and not to be contentious or belittle anything in any manner whatsoever that Mr. Panisi just said to council. There's been I think we got off to a late start from the point where we were appointed. Our first meeting occurred last Thursday. Part of the meeting was to elect a chair and a vice chair and to set our next meeting and an agenda. I received the agenda packet today for that meeting, and since prior to that, I have received through the city clerk various documents from members of the committee who have put in very, very long hours, have worked very diligently to meet the goal that we set at Thursday's meeting. In my opinion, those goals have been set. The packets are there. There are several quite sophisticated applications out there. The plan was that we would meet as a committee and we would review the input that we received today, and we would narrow that down and we would develop a job application or a position available form suitable for posting on electronic media. And we would also discuss timeline, and we would also discuss the media that we would post that on. And the reason I'm bringing this up right now is because we have all been frightened about sunshine. For many of us, first time on a committee. I'm a very active member of city council members, city council meetings and other meetings, but this is the first committee I've been on. And my volunteer work has been providing a lot of documentation on the other side. That being said, we all became quite contrite or serious about sunshine, trying to comply in every way we could. I'm going to say this, and I'm saying it without contention, but I want to say this. If something happened here at this meeting tonight prior to the council starting, where an individual of that committee approached you, Mr. Mayor, and Mr. Bill, and myself first, and I refused to talk about the meeting tomorrow night because of sunshine. And I think that was, and I was asked to change the agenda for tomorrow night's meeting. And I resent that because we have something very close, ready to go. And as far as I know, we will have a quorum tomorrow night. We just found out this afternoon that Mr. Sexter will not be attending. He's going to New Mexico. Thursday, he told us he was available. Thursday, the chair told us she was available. We all looked and we all agreed that we're meeting. I think with the material packet that we've received from all of the members, as we were promised to do, this individual also mentioned to me, we can't do anything with, we just got about this much information. Well, everybody had the same opportunity I did, and this Trevor, who I've never met. I've never met any of these people before. I don't know them. I assume they were appointed by you people for their ethical behavior and for their ability to accomplish a task in a very short time. I think that task is doable. As the chair said, Travers put a timeline out of his estimation of where this would be. That's to be discussed tomorrow night. That timeline isn't fixed yet. That was an estimate. But I think a lot of material has been collated already. I think we can bang that down, and if we can't do it then, we can set another meeting or as soon as possible and have that posting ready to go. I would hope sometime by the end of next week at the latest. It can go out there. And we're talking about the media that we're foreseeing. We're thinking LinkedIn, we're thinking links as other, apparently these web crawlers, if you go to Motomoto or something, job application site, these web crawlers will pick that up and they'll put them on Monster Jobs and go to LinkedIn. My daughter mentioned you'd be surprised that she's a marketing director of a clinical trials company. They post help wanted ads and of all places Craigslist. And I said, well, you got to be kidding me. They said, well, yeah, that's right. If somebody sat up here talked about Facebook being a new media and how often people get on there. I bought my wife her own computer because I don't want Facebook to get close to mine. But I know other people that are on there 20, 30 times a day.
Okay, so Mr. McClendon, am I hearing you say then that you think that the timeline would support making this council making a decision?
That is my belief, and I think it can be done to achieve a selection of candidates that will meet all the goals. And I'm still interested in what this letter was. I didn't hear you, Mr. Mayor. Your microphone wasn't closed. And I want to...
Sorry, I pushed it along. I passed it along to the lawyer. We're going to discuss it, Don, as soon as you are done.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, your meeting tomorrow night is what time? 5 o'clock?
Yes.
5 o'clock?
Fred's also on this meeting. I don't know what I've done to offend Don, so I'll talk to him afterwards.
Okay, well,
Fred Bailey, resident of Satellite Beach. I happen to believe that we were kind of told that the city council wanted to make a decision by election day. That's what drove the schedule. I'm hearing tonight that's not what you're thinking at all. I believe that a position of this caliber should be advertised for at least 30 days. You look on all job applications I've looked at, that's what they seem to do. This is the most important position in the city right now, and I don't think we need to rush it. I really don't. And I think we're kind of on a false track. So I believe that it should be 30 days to be advertised, and we'll have the application. It will still be, the new council will be able to select the individual and still meet the timeline.
okay. Thanks, Fred. You guys, you'll be there tomorrow night? Yep. Be a quorum? Yes. Trevor will be there?
Yeah, my only comment on that is that the accumulation of resumes can be done in parallel with the evaluation of those resumes. In other words, people will be able to look at the resumes that get in, and they'll be able to put yes, no, yes, no, okay? And then if they have to go through them again, they can do that. So if 30 days accumulation period is acceptable, I would like to see some kind of a schedule, all right, that would show me that we'll still be able to meet timelines with a 30-day accumulation period versus the current schedule. I mean, there must be some common ground here.
Okay. Yeah, and I think they'll make a better schedule. You know, you'll discuss it tomorrow night. I think.
And do you want me to read this again?
It was read in. I think the only thing it says is that there was some concern that one of the members on your committee is also running for office. And I will leave that to Mr. Beadle. to
Yeah, I'd
make a
ask,
decision on that.
How is that a conflict of interest?
And Jim, go ahead.
Well, it's not a conflict of interest per se. The issue is whether or not the individual has to resign. Lenore asked me a question. It wasn't exactly in that context, but I'm assuming this is similar to what we're talking about. But there's nothing in the state statutes, and obviously nothing in our code, that will require a volunteer to resign to run, or to resign after they may have won an election, or to resign in any of those capacities, because it relates to the fact that, well, the resign or run law specifically says it does not apply to persons serving without salary as a member of an appointed board. So, you know, that's, the issue is the nature of the position that's being held, and that's the predicate for determining that they don't have to resign to run.
Okay, so that's handled. The other part of the letter had to deal with who should pick this chairman. I think we're going to wait for your board to meet and come up with some dates.
You need to approve the posting.
Would it be possible for the appointees to coordinate the posting with their appointers and bring it back to committee?
I mean, I suggested that. I suggested the talk with our.
I think that's the quickest way to do it. And, I mean.
Yeah, David called me and we did some stuff.
Or just email it to us and then let us get it back to our person so we don't have a sunshine issue. And then you guys kludge it.
Right.
I just wanted to make sure we didn't step on your toes.
No, okay, yeah, but we would like to look at it. Okay.
But this Trevor thing does present an interesting point that may actually push up the requirement to choose. Because what if he gets elected as mayor, and so then he is now on the, he will now be moving from the selection committee, or the, whatever you call it, the screening committee, to now actually making a selection, and that I could see as,
That's why we need to see the schedule.
That's why we need to see a schedule, because I think that actually calls for us doing the selection versus having the potential for somebody who has been on the selection committee to then, or the screening committee to then become on council and make a selection.
And you may want to talk to him to see if he has the time still to be on it, or if he's going to spend it, because he, you know, in a letter he wrote to me that he's going to spend time campaigning and getting that started. So I'm not sure if.
Well, we need to make it, I think we need to let him know that from a legal perspective, he does not have to resign.
Right.
I was on the CRA advisory board for a couple of years while I ran, and I'm sure some other former council members or mayors were on board, so I don't see the conflict.
Mayor, may I folks tell you what you're doing about this comment?
Don,
It's important.
well, I think we're just
Go
going
back and do it in sunshine.
All right, well, let me do the next items, okay? Let me get these done, and then, all right, I got to see what's, I'll get you up there, promise. Agenda item for the next regular council meeting. And what do we got? Ann?
What we have is the presentation by Jim Malucki. He's going to go first prior to the budget. Status report of the city manager screening committee. And let's see here. Oh, the Lions Club donation of the ADA chair for beach access. Let me see. Public hearing again on the budget, and I believe, Lenore, we were talking about 6:45 for that. Will that give us plenty of time for noticing at that time? And then the comp plan is, looks like that's back there.
Well, but
It's a second reading.
Well, we won't do a
Second
second reading until it comes back.
Well, aren't we doing that on the military portion?
We don't do a second reading
Oh.
until after it comes back from.
Okay, so for the whole enchilada then, okay.
Great.
What about the sign code?
Well,
Sign code may
we've
may
got to
not be
have
ready.
that, do that workshop with both council and the Right,
Oh, we directed.
exactly. Right.
Number 8, oh, CPAB.
Right, that's the workshop with council and CPAB.
I'm sorry, number 8 is for PZAB.
Right.
Number 9 is for CPAB workshop.
That's correct, with the council. 8 just goes back to PZAB.
Exactly.
On the 17th, John,
But 9,
if you're ready.
right, and then 9, we're having the workshop. We've
We'll-
got to have that workshop prior to.
Yes, schedule.
Exactly.
Check with the CPAB members, or the chair. Anything else?
Based on tonight's length of meeting, I would recommend nothing else.
Actually, I'd like one more thing.
And what is that?
Personnel policy.
No?
No.
No, that's way too
Oh,
long.
I
But,
No.
and I assume that's being worked, or
Oh,
will be
gosh,
worked after the
yes.
budget.
Oh,
Okay.
gosh, yes.
So, but what I would like to do is I would like to discuss the potential to change council procedure, don't hit me, but to allow business casual attire for all council meetings all year long, except for special occasions. Like when somebody's going to be presented something, or there's going to be something like that. I would like to discuss that. We're a beach town, and it's hotter than heck in this stuff.
Okay.
Nice flip flop.
I know.
Okay, anything else? I didn't make these rules. I hate this.
Well, then let's change them. That's what we're all about, is change.
I
Come
know,
on.
I know. Okay, Mr. McClendon, you want to say something in Sunshine concerning the past topic of choosing the next city manager?
No, again, it has to do, we feel so constrained that what occurred tonight was part of that feeling of constraint because of Sunshine. The chair approached me and I said, as far as I understand from Sunshine, I can't talk to you about this unless we're on record.
Were you going to vote on it?
Excuse me?
Were you going to vote on it?
Was it something you were going to vote on?
No.
I don't think, Jim.
Because I said some things because I was upset about them, but it does not reflect bad on, but I want to be able to talk to her and say, look,
Okay,
here's where I'm coming from.
can you just hang out, and Mr. Beadle will
Yes.
just tell you one thing on that. You can't, I can talk to Scott, and I can talk to Greg. I
fine.
just can't talk to them about anything that we're going to vote on.
Right.
So I can talk.
Potentially vote.
I can talk
Or
to the chair
potentially-
about,
Other things?
Changing the agenda item, or something like, yeah.
that's all I need to know.
Okay, thanks. Okay, agenda item number 12 is adoption of minutes, June 13th, June 20th, and July 18th, and those were sent to the House.
Yeah.
Right.
I saw one typo. I didn't know what the word was. On the council minutes, June 30th, Attorney Beadle indicated there was a...
Scrivener's error, that is...
Scrivener's? That's not a typo, that's a real word.
So you learned something. You can go to bed now.
I've never seen that.
That's where the word scribble came from.
Wait a minute, did Mr. Beadle use that word?
Yeah. He indicated there was a Scrivener error, and he corrected it.
At 8 years law school paid off.
All right, can I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to approve the, approve the minutes from June 13th, June 20th, and July 18th, 2012, as written.
Oh, second it.
Okay, Lenore, I have a motion by Vice Mayor Rhodes, second by Councilman Billman.
Councilman Frank?
Yes.
Councilman Billman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Rhodes?
Yes.
Mayor Crockett?
Yes, and I'd like to thank everyone for coming and staying. CRA meeting on the 13th, we'll see you then, some of you at the dinner on Monday. Thank you, meeting's adjourned.
Dinner Monday.
Oh, Florida, oh, yeah. Boy, you come with it? Jim, I didn't mean it all. I just had to say something. Scrivener. What is that? He's questioning Lenore about having made a